Hello and welcome to this very first episode of the Moment podcast in January of 2023. First of all, I would want to wish anyone listening a happy new year from the Fox Den. Well, we're going to talk today about feminine Earth, and I think the person to really take that away would be Lynn, that is with me here, and Raine Fox, Simone as well, and some others already listening here live while it's being recorded. So yes, I don't know if you want to take it away, Lynn.
Yeah, sure. I'll just refer to my notes so I don't forget something important at the beginning. Yes, we're going to talk about feminine Earth, and this together is with the other elements, the feminine water, masculine fire, and masculine air. They together are the four elements, and all the four elements exist in both males and females, and they're all present in the birth chart of all of us, just in different degrees and in different combinations in the sense of placements of planets and stuff, but they're all there, and they don't exist really separately exactly, because they're always in relationship to each other and in contact. And that's why there's also these symbols and concepts that are combinations of the different elements as well. We have the figure of Kuan Yin, that is I guess more like a combination of air and earth. And in the star card, we have water and earth and air, because there's the atmosphere, and the star card represents Aquarius, which is an air sign, but then the star itself is a blaze, so there's fire too. So there's all the elements together, and that's more like the reality we all inhabit. But for this talk, we wanted to bring feminine Earth because we feel like that doesn't get as much attention maybe than the other elements in our time, and we wanted to bring that up more. Plus, it's Capricorn season now, and I have a Capricorn stellium, a lot of planets there, so it's something that's very dear to my heart to talk about. And feel free to add something in while I'm talking about these things too. Just start with some words and concepts associated with feminine Earth. So material, matter, universe, nature, and astrological signs of Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. I don't know if I should go into the other elements a bit or just move on to more Earth stuff.
I don't know. Maybe I would say first more Earth stuff, probably. But yeah, so I don't know. It is true regarding that, but also I guess the alchemists talk also about the elements and how they're all there in different traditions about how they're all interacting. So that's indeed universally known. But I do think there's maybe a bit of well, I guess not so much focus on that. There's more focus on other the other ones indeed. and you know, what you were talking about regarding like astrology, because it's kind of like an astrological lens then with the planets and stuff. There's indeed like the tarot, as you pointed out too, and there's like all these other like perspectives when it comes to looking at feminine Earth, and yeah, it's something that we're planning on talking about more too within this talk, and maybe yeah, give the word back to you with the notes.
Okay, more words and concepts. It's also feminine art is linked to structure, the tangible or 3D world, biological world, plants, forests, mountains, especially, I guess, bedrock, ecosystems, textile fibers, weaving, crafts, clothing, protection, crystals, and items. So just like I had like a little brainstorming with myself, and this is what I came up with. I'm sure there's more stuff to say about it, but those are like some things that came up for me, especially about this. So I want to maybe talk about this one picture that I already shared in the notes about the 3 metrics of ecosystem health, just because we're talking about feminine earth, and it really makes me think of ecosystems. It's like it's the structure that is there for us to be able to have a life here on earth, or the ecosystems, and we're part of it. But it's like if we need that to be functioning for continual good life. So how we can know if an ecosystem is healthy are these 3 metrics. So one is biomass, and that's the amount of living different life forms that are there, and that includes plants, animals, soil, microbial life, birds, all sorts of life, and that's what is living. So the more, the healthier. Also, necromass, which is then parts of these living things that are decaying. So a dead tree, dead animals, or what the animals leave, and all that is necromass. And it's the amount of necromass also tells you about the health of the ecosystem. So we're not meant to take all the dead material away from the forests. We're meant to leave some there for it to decompose so that the forest can reuse it. Okay, biodiversity is the 3rd metric, and that is diversity of all these different kinds of trees, different kind of animals, and that's another way to tell how healthy an ecosystem is. This illustration is from Andrew Millison, and he was talking about someone else who came up with these metrics. I don't remember it now, but we can link to the video where he says about
it. Yes, and I don't know, a lot of this makes me also think about regarding, I guess, the nature of Earth, or like the things associated with Earth, that there is, at the same time, I guess there's this structure to it, but then it's kind of in its own way like flowing or like changing. It's like there's like this structure there, but at the same time that the structure, like I guess you could call it like the tower, to like use like a tarot card analogy. The tower that is like being built is simultaneously being deconstructed, and there's like both of these happening at the same time, like when talking about an ecosystem. And I think when it comes to that, because often like I guess when one talks about like Earth and like I guess like in astrological terms one would call it like shadow Capricorn and like that kind of stuff. It's like when it is rigid, but it's not just when it is rigid. There is this like flow happening where it goes like it's the tower is being built and deconstructed at the same time, and that's kind of what an ecosystem is. Those two processes happen at the same time, and I guess with a lot of that in like human civilization and like a lot of lessons that, well, a lot of different cultures like within Egypt, but also within like Buddhism and other such cultures, what they're kind of teaching about is to kind of about that awareness, like, yeah, but like it's like happening both at the same time, and we kind of need to let that happen, and that's the natural way of like how things are. Yes, and welcome to you, Zsofia, for just notice you joined during the talk.
Okay. I think we're gonna still talk a little bit about ecosystems, and then we can go into more specific arts and stuff that we want to share. That is also connected to feminine earth. There was this one graph or map that I had shared also in the Roundtable in the pinned messages, was this forest cover in Europe. How it used to be a lot more forested. Like, I guess, is it 4,000 years ago or is it 6,000? Something like that, anyways. And now it's like very little compared to that. And it's because they made ship out of the old oaks and things like that since then. But then they are like wondering like why the weather is becoming more erratic and stuff. It's because of the lack of forest cover, really. And if we would repair that situation collectively, then we would have a much more stable weather patterns and less droughts and less of the flooding, because the forests keep the water from flooding because they keep it there. Trees are 50% water, so instead of running off, they would hold that water.
And I think that here you can again see with regarding to the structure of it, like that regarding like the ecosystem, that I guess the earth elements that is connected to that, because also like it's with the mother goddess, vegetation is also often associated with it, that there is this like this structure that it then brings that like balances out the different like extremes. Like you don't have the flood, you don't have the drought, but it becomes more stable, and that's kind of the associations that people have a lot with earth in general, like as an element. And that's kind of like the way to see it. I would say, but there's so much more that I still have regarding well that kind of side of like the earth goddesses and things about that. I don't know if you mind if I delve a bit into that territory?
Yes.
It makes me also think about Göbekli Tepe and kind of like the earth goddess cult that they had, where she was linked to the mountain specifically, but also there being association with fertility in the broad sense, but also like the fertility of the land, of the soil. And a lot of this stems from like when humans were starting to like do like agriculture and started to like interact with the environment and like in that way, and we weren't like wild I guess humans anymore, or just living off what was there kind of thing. And I just wanted to bring that up already a bit because it's just something that it makes me think of too, and can like go a bit further into it later in the talk, but just wanted to bring it up already because that's one thing for sure that it makes me think of. And there's like a lot more stuff like connected to that too. It's like the Norns and like these like triple goddesses and all of this. And I think like it's gonna become quite clear during the talk, like how like all of these things kind of like interact and are like deeply connected to the environment and to a lot of like understanding, but also material. And I think that's the cue for the art and material side that you wanted to bring up, Lynn.
For me, feminine earth makes me think of also like materials, textile fibers, and textiles bring to mind like that they are a sort of technology because they're a practical application of knowledge. And so practical things feel like very earthy to me too. It's like grounded. It's actual, something that you can do with your hands and with tools. And it also makes me think of recycling and circular economy and material wisdom and quality and repairability of things. And I guess because it's like nature does that too. It recycles everything. So I think it makes sense also in crafts and textiles to do that. So I know that Zsofia has a project where they use recycled materials like from old clothes or things like that, and they crochet them into mats that are shaped like a mandala and different designs. And I think if that's okay, we can share some pictures of that too.
Yes, sure. Can you hear me? Sorry.
I can hear you. Yes.
Oh, great. Yes. So thanks that you introduced because I had some issues with the headphone and technical stuff. So yes, we do those mats, and the main thing that we reuse materials, or we use the existing material which is out in the world. Like, we don't produce new materials because there are so much material already.
A lot of this also makes me think regarding like weaving again, like what you also had in your notes, what I looked further into regarding like the Norns and the weaving that they do. Regarding the Norns, there's like then also a connection to like because the Norns are like both in Celtic, but in Germanic, there's like an older base of that going on, like where the Norns are coming from, because originally like they were like these like earth goddesses, and then they became like later associated with weaving and nurturing of the world tree, and but also like from what I saw, so they're connected to like keeping the world tree alive. It's like again this concept of like they're allowing they're helping it to grow, but at the same time they're making sure that what is rotten gets like taken care of, so that like there's again like this like element of this like tower, how I was saying, like how between the growing and decaying at the same time, and like how the three Norns are kind of like taking care of that like cycle, and they take the water of this well at the bottom, like one of the wells at the bottom, and they use this kind of symbolically in the process of like nurturing, but also I guess cleansing the state where there's like the growing, but at the same time like the taking away of that what is rotten, so that they make sure that these things flow. And I think it's like also like a deeper animistic understanding to that too. Like people probably had seen this through their own experience by watching the ecosystem, like how you notice these things when you spend enough time within nature.
Yeah, and that brings to mind like how together with water, Earth is also connected to cycles and the body, but like especially I guess with the cycles of the year, which brings the transformation of the leaves and the decaying parts, like even like parts of trees that like the tree is alive, but it renews part of itself in the leaves, that it gives them back to cover the earth, to protect it for the winter, and then next year again it brings new leaves out. So yeah, very much like about cycles too, and the yearly cycle with the different solstices too. I guess we're kind of moving now into more the symbolic representations of feminine earth. So like, can I give you a little list here? Mother Earth, Mother Matter, the Empress in the Tarot, fertility in that sense, and Gaia to nurture, Artemis, the Green Mother, animistic vegetation deities and spirits of place. It's like an example of Feronia that Buzz can talk about later, and some bull symbolism from Göbekli Tepe. And then there's also the Durga, mother goddess in Hinduism. So that's a few examples, and we can go a bit more into some of them.
I don't know. I think another good thing to bring up is also the connection to fire, because the Earth Mother is also like specifically with like Göbekli Tepe and like the earlier base where it's coming from, connected to stone specifically. And one thing to really know about stones is that it's one of these other things again, kind of, that shows like how something we think is pretty rigid, or like, you know, the earth isn't really, because kind of what is happening when you think about like plate tectonics, but also like the deeper layer with like the magma and going all the way to the core of the earth. Because I had this teach to me in university when I had geology, that you have the upper layer and it seems like pretty well, I guess rigid, but it goes at the end of the plate, it goes downward, and then it becomes like it gets heated up and it becomes magma. And within the earth, you have all of these different layers of magma that are all flowing and interacting with each other, and like there's like magma coming up, becoming lava, and coming up through volcanoes. But at the same time, there's like at the other edge of like a plate, it can also like go back up, because there's like continuously going this magma going back up and going back down, and like as like it when it comes back up, it becomes stone, volcanic rock, and such. And within the deeper layer of the earth, you have then these different like flows that are happening, because it doesn't all just flow the same. There's like different, like you could call it like rivers that are flowing of magma, which is basically molten rock, and it is just flowing in their own streams. One going, for instance, to the left, the other one to the right, and then one goes like more flows more up, and then there's these different patterns that are happening. And then when you go like deeper and deeper into the earth, you get to some point, you get to the core, which is like there's so much pressure there that it just becomes like this metallic like core at the center. And all of these like rock also contains iron, and all of this iron interacts with each other and helps to create what is kind of, well, it's the electromagnetic field, and then it has like the north and the south pole are connected to that too, and that kind of like keeps a lot of like dangerous radiation out, like all this space radiation that comes in that could like kill all life. And it's like, for instance, one of the reasons why there's no life on Mars, because it's like on Mars that flowing had stopped, and that's why there's no atmosphere on it. So in a weird way, kind of like rock makes the atmosphere possible. But and these things can interact with each other, and it's pretty, to me, pretty mind blowing. And it's like, even regarding the heat, that like it's like hotter. How more you get to the core, it's like hotter than the sun, really. And there's just one more, I guess, way of like seeing like how it's like, again, this flowing thing of the tower being built, like, it becomes solid rock, but also at the same time it goes back down, it decays, it becomes magma again, it flows, and there's some element of destruction definitely in that, because if you think about it, like with magma, I mean, you're in lava. If you don't want to be in Pompeii or something at the time of like the eruption, it's pretty destructive. But at the same time, it's like this like continual process that is happening. And I feel like with the Norns too, it's like this is happening. It's also why, I feel like in myth, how they talk about like how they're like reweaving the threads every day. They make the fabric, but they take it apart and they keep like reweaving it, and that's kind of like the fabric of reality.
Yeah, and with the Norns, like I guess they're like with the name Norns, we're talking about, I guess, Norse mythology. Like they usually showed us three women in different ages, like young, almost like a child, and then a woman in like a bride's age or so, and then like a crone. And they're not really separate. The idea is like they are really just representing different times of the one weave of fate, that they together are that weave. So in a sense, it's like means that the generations together form that fate.
It makes me also think about like how in like I read that like a long time ago about like how in the womb of or like all the way back when one's grandmother was like younger, if you just take that generation, she already had the grandmother already had then the eggs of the mother in there, or the father in some sense too, depending on like what like I guess child is born, but just take the mother in there, and then the mother already has the potential already at birth of the eggs that are there that will become the daughter. So the grandma, the mother, and the daughter already are like interacting in this way, way before I guess the youngest of the generations is already born. And from what I had looked into it like a long time ago, it has something to do with like so that nature can be more adaptable to like the environment, so it can already change things down the line and be like, well, it seems like now things are pretty like abundant or like not abundant or like whatever is going on, and it can change things. And so that like the species can adapt to the environment. So, and I think that's again this like there's a weaving of the Norns in a way as well, because the Norns were also well connected to children too. So if like a child would be born, they kind of were symbolically there and determined the person's future. They were already like weaving everything in, so they were kind of already weaving the from the past generations into the future, into the fate of an individual in some sense. Even though there's plenty of stories within Norse mythology, but also, I mean, like, you know, the Norns are there's Norse mythology, there's different ones too, and different cultures as well. Because you also have the Empress and the Matronea, for instance. It's like something pretty similar, an older base, and then you have in Greek and like Hindu mythology, you also have like different equivalents of these figures. But yeah, what seems to be the case is that like they indeed like form this like weave of fate, and then there's like these different gods that are like and individuals that are trying to like negotiate or like try to like get out of that fate, or try to change it and stuff like that, or that it is woven differently, but most of the time in those stories it ends up being like, yeah, you can like we can weave this a bit differently here and here and here, but at the end it needs to like fit into the grander whole again. So oftentimes the ending seems to be the same, and in a way it is. I mean, like, we all get born and we all die, so yeah, there's just this indeed these elements in there. And it's also said that they were like giantesses or Jotuns in Norse mythology, and that their arrival ended the golden age of the gods, whatever that implies. I haven't been able to find out like exactly what this golden age of the gods even was. There was not much really to find on that. But a lot of this with the Norns also, they're like associated, like we already had said, like with the past, present, and future, like Order, Dandy, and Skuld. But then you also have the, I guess, other form of it, which is Hnoss, Skogul, and Gunnar, that are associated with death, violence, and fertility. And there's like different, apparently there's like even more different versions of that even out there. It depends on like I guess there's different stories that are out there, or I guess, well, it's coming from an oral tradition, so it's pretty diverse generally speaking. But they're all seen as like emanations of the same figures, and that gets on into like the Matres and Matronea kind of trio goddesses that like are much older. And Raine Fox, I think you also posted about like Hecate that you also had brought up.
Yeah, it was just kind of a quick little thing that I did some research into because I was watching Jason and the Argonauts, and she shows up there. They end up going to a Hecate temple in the sort of like last quarter of the movie, and it very much, in the movie appears like this mystery school, and there's a triple goddess that they worship, and the Wikipedia had her associated with snakes and her different triple forms seem very syncretic with a lot of other sort of natural earth goddesses.
Yeah, and from when I was looking into like the Matronea, for instance, also like these female deities. What really became clear also is like like one is like associated with like maidenhood, like has like often like loose hair. Then one has a headdress, it's connected to married women, and then there's like the one associated with snakes, which is like connected to like the souls of the dead and the underworld and stuff like that. But then there's also like a lot of symbolism of children and nappies and like plants and different like nature symbolism often associated with that too. And from what I'd seen, there's like this. They also like possess certain like healing and protective powers in general. Even like the one associated with snakes, that is like it seems to be like a lot of it has to do with like the underworld and thinking about that kind of like ties into, well, the unconscious. It's the same thing with like the more Moddernicht, that is kind of like the night of the mother in like the Norse tradition. That's like an event at like at Christmas Eve, basically, when they were doing like sacrifices in honor of these like goddesses, and it's kind of like ties into the solstices again, and to the seasons, and like like the symbolism of death and rebirth. That's also like in the snake symbolism, because like the snake sheds its skin. So there's like a lot of symbolism. Yeah.
It's like helping the natural order do its own thing, because we get in the way of the natural way of things and muck it up.
Yeah. That reminds me of, we also looked a little bit into the Finnish tradition about Akka, which is like, you could, I guess, translate it to a crone, an old woman. And it said like she was the the wife of Ukko, and Ukko was the all god or over god in the tradition. And some source said that she was called Rauni, and she was connected to the winter solstice, and then she had a son that was called Pekko, which is also then linked to Earth, because he's the son of the Earth Mother. And yeah, he can take the shape of a young man or an old white rabbit, which I think is cool. So that's one example also of like a symbolic representation of feminine earth. But yeah, hey, welcome, Mikael.
Oh, hey, you know how to say it right. Let's go. Thank you for that.
Yes.
There you go. How y'all doing?
Yeah, doing good. We're just hearing the talk. Some people listening, some people chiming in. But
I
yeah,
would have come in a bit earlier, but I was just making some celery juice and like recording some videos. But Nia's over here doing some art, and we're just chilling.
Hello, I'm working on that piece that I sent you, of the woman with the waves and stuff all around her.
epic.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm gonna let you guys get back to what you were talking about. I don't want to interrupt or anything. So
Yeah, we can talk about some related stuff here with you. Also, like, yeah, we're gonna share some of your art too once we get to the editing part, so we can show that painting that you're working on then too.
We appreciate you.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like a lot of art from others. Also from Qualilog that is here listening, and other artists that send their work to it, and other artists that have been like suggested by others to be shared here.
Yeah, man, art is the best expression of creativity, or one of them, you know, visual art, but art in general is the best way we can express ourselves and our souls. But yeah, if y'all have any questions about my viewpoints on anything, or you know, just let me know.
Yeah, we're talking about like feminine earth, so like the earth mother and nature, and kind of like this cycle of kind of like death and rebirth, and how kind of in these different mythologies, but in stories, and like these different worldviews, how it is kind of like this understanding that like nature is kind of like it's like the kind of like the building up of like the tower of like the tarot card, but also kind of the taking down of it at the same time. It's like it's this process of like simultaneous like growth and like kind of like decaying and then composting and like bringing it back. So
yeah, everything is reused to create more life, you know. So like when one thing dies, like when a human dies and they go into the soil, then an apple tree can grow through that human's body that decayed in the soil. You know, that's how nature is so magnificent in that way, that you know she can turn pretty much anything into love and light. Even the most evil human could die and it could turn into a beautiful flower or tree. So that's one of the most magnificent things about Earth, in my opinion. It's very fair, I'd say. The Earth is a very fair place to be in. Some people think it's unfair, but it's actually very fair. We're all abiding by the same laws and rules of nature. And some species and beings do it better than others. Some people cause destruction. Some people create love and light. It's all just a flow of energy, in my opinion. Earth represents like the divine mother, for sure, of probably the entire universe. That's why I think so many species are here, and so many beings incarnate here because it's such a special place to be, and it's one of a kind, you know, like there's no other Earth. There's only one Earth in this whole universe.
Yeah, it's a very unique place to be where all these elements come together and create this. I guess through the divine and the elements, we get this place where we can live and experience and learn things and transform, like the earth transforms things.
Yeah,
We're part of that.
and have experiences that we otherwise would have never been able to have in like the formless realm or the spirit realm. I feel like on Earth, you can only do certain things on Earth. Like the formless realm is infinite, but there's certain things in that realm that you can't do. And I think one of those is like eating food and enjoy making art, doing things, yeah, like having a body, doing things that are very earthly. You can only do those here, you know. The spirit realm is really cool, but sometimes you want to come to Earth and experience something new. And that's what the Earth has to offer, is new things that maybe don't exist in the spirit realm, or maybe we're creating things on Earth that are being created in the spirit realm. Who knows?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Hello.
Go ahead, Simone.
I just thought about the Chinese five elements, since it has earth, and the other elements, it doesn't include air though. So the other elements include metal and wood, and there is like a cycle in the five elements where the earth comes from fire, because fire um it turns the wood into dust. There's like a cycle. Like, let's just say there's wood, then there's fire. The fire turns the wood into dust, and the dust becomes the earth, and the earth produces metals, which could be just rocks or jewelry, that kind of stuff. Then next to metals is water, because metal supposedly holds water. Then water um, helps grow the wood. And the cycle is called the mother-child relationship, because they support each other. And the thing about it is there's like some human activity involved, because it it's not common to have wildfires by the sun. It's usually done by people. And sometimes you use the wood to heat um for heating, and what happens there is like there's ashes, and those ashes go to the earth. And the metals, you collect the metals from the earth, and then you produce jewelry or anything. And a watering can is usually metal. So you put the water there, and then you will water the wood, and it just goes there. But there's also the other relationship, which is a bit destructive. It's just called the master slave fighting relationship. It's when some things become very excessive. Like, the earth can absorb the water, and there are chances where the water could overpower the earth, and then wood can sometimes overpower the earth. uh, and sometimes earth could bury the wood. It's just that there's like toxic relationships between the two elements, and usually when you do things excessively, it would end that way. It would be full of arguments, full of bad things. It's a toxic relationship. It's like the devouring mother. When I think about it, um, it's like the earth can swallow things whole sometimes. And I remember the saying where we are born of this earth, but at some point we get buried on earth. And um, hmm, it's just that if we try to do bad things to the earth, it would come back to us. It's
Yes, I love that. I love that. Exactly. That's what's
yeah,
happening right
that's yeah.
like,
It's a toxic relationship. Yes.
humans I feel like humans need to start realizing and pointing out the bad things we're doing to the earth. And there's just so many that, I can't even list them all, but I think some of the most important ones are the deforestation. That's really bad. The coral reefs, like over 90% of those have died. And those actually have been around since the time of like the dinosaurs and stuff. They can live for millions of years, and they can actually live indefinitely. Sorry, my cat is Rasha, get over there. The coral is dying now because the rising temperatures of the ocean, it's starting to bleach itself, and it turns white. And then once it turns white, that means that all the life is pretty much out of the coral, and it's dormant. And then after a certain point, a bunch of algae and other species start to eat the coral, and then that's when it's dead. It's just covered in like green algae and bacteria. And coral supports all the life on the entire planet. Like, coral is the number one life supporting structure on the planet, and now it's dying, and the oceans are really not looking good, especially with all these oil spills and stuff. And that's another huge problem, is the fact that we're drilling miles into the Earth's surface to obtain fossil fuel and crude oil. We're just digging up old dinosaurs and then burning them in combustion engines and polluting the atmosphere. And the Earth knows that all this is going on, and like you were saying, it's always going to come back to us, and we're always going to reap what we sow. And I think that's why humanity is even learning this lesson, is we're sort of learning that right now, that everything we do has a reaction, even if it's 10 years down the line, even if it's 100 years down the line, it's going to happen. There's no avoiding it. So when we do things like deforest the whole forest just so people can build houses that will be destroyed 10 years later to build new ones, or drill deep into the earth's surface to mine crude oil and then burn it into the atmosphere, all these things, these consequences are happening super fast. And I feel like my generation is the one that's going to have to really take the brunt of these consequences. And the older generations, like the boomers, they're just going to pass away before they really see the consequences. So they don't really actually care about changing it. It's more my generation that cares, and we're the ones that are going to have to fix it, and we're the ones that are going to have to change everything. And these other generations, they know they're not going to be alive long enough to see a lot of these effects or have the effects affect them. Like, I live in America, for example, and America is filled with a bunch of ungrateful, rich, greedy people that care nothing about the environment. Like, we go to a local farmers market, and people just throw trash out of their cars. They just throw trash on the ground, and we ended up picking up three Walmart bags full of trash in 10 minutes, and that was just like a tiny little area of America. So you could imagine how much people just are throwing trash everywhere. And that's just one part of it, but really it shows the consciousness of humanity. It's showing that a lot of these generations don't have any clue about the nature's ecosystem. They have no clue about the consequences of what they're doing. All they do is do. They don't actually think about the consequences. So like all the older generations that invented the combustion engine, they weren't thinking about the earth when they invented that at all. That was not in their mind. All they were thinking about was money and a way to uh, boost their culture and boost their economy for the short term. And they were thinking nothing about, holy shit, one day this combustion engine is going to cause huge problems, and all the quote unquote progress that our society has made, it's all going to just reverse, and it's going to go right back to the Stone Age. We're getting too big for our britches now.
Yeah.
Nature nature spoils us too much sometimes. And it's one of the things that I remember about parenting is when the child gets too spoiled, they would be very ungrateful, and at some point, as a if you were a parent, like you would be irritated at some point that your child is behaving badly. And you can relate that to how Mother Nature reacts to how humans treated her. Like she has provided everything for everyone. And we take too much of it. And now that we're getting to the point where we're running out of resources and the things that would protect us, like trees and coral reefs, they will soon be like, you can call them like the sort of patience of Mother Nature. And we try to like um how do I say this? We try to like um she's losing patience when we like do those kinds of things. And once she loses all of them, she's going to retaliate really bad, really um and it would cost so many lives. And
Oh yeah,
sometimes
and I agree.
the
We're
other
just seeing
people
the
that
beginning of that, you know?
mhm,
I feel like
yeah,
right now we're just seeing the beginning of that retaliation. Especially in America, there's a lot of weather problems that are happening, like fires, intense hurricanes. Like I'm in Florida, and we got 2 hurricanes this year, and one of them was extremely bad, and there was like dead bodies all over the road, and it was pretty crazy. So we're seeing that already, you know.
yeah, and other people get affected, and sometimes they don't have anything to do with like the destruction of the earth, but they get affected by it. And you can count the other creatures as well. Like they are enjoying the benefits of the earth, but they don't do it excessively like we do. And you can consider them as the other children that are like behave children. You can say that. And I know I remember the feminine earth in Chinese astrology would be like the wet soil and all that kind of stuff. It's for the nurturing. And most of the soil now is like very dead, and it's not easy to like do farming anymore with that kind of soil. And we're no longer in that age where there's just there's so much fertile soil. It has degraded over the years. And with pesticides it just degrades it even more. And um it's like we're just destroying earth so much. It's like
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
that kind of thing that we do is sometimes we do act like very terrible children to our own mothers, because like we want to get something and our mother says no, and we insist on getting that thing and she lets us, and at some point and we stop paying attention and like caring for her, she would retaliate and she would be very mad, just like what the earth did. It's just
Yeah,
so many dynamics between mother and child relationships between earth and humans.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
just,
or
it's
the
just
earth could
crazy.
get sick too, you know.
Yeah.
Like that could also be a form of retaliation, is by the earth getting sick and being like, oh, you know what, you guys. Yeah, my sister's gonna wants to say something real quick.
I just wanted to say it's kind of like what our mom always said. There's a science and there's a spiritual to everything, and like scientists could say that it's climate change, but somebody else can look at it as the earth having a fever. And what are fevers? It's a way for the body to get rid of a virus or to get rid of an infection, or a way that something is harming your body or your soul. And I feel like that's what the earth is doing. it's raising the temperatures. It's trying to weed out the negative energy, and sadly, a lot of beings of light, whether it's human or the cat or the bird, they'll get affected too, like Simone was saying.
Yeah, exactly. And Earth, I feel the only goal of Earth is to restore balance and keep balance. The Earth doesn't discriminate between species. The Earth doesn't pick favorites. I feel like the only goal the Earth has is to keep a balance on this planet, because when things get thrown off balance, that's when the negative vibrations and the lower level vibrations start to materialize more. And that's what you see all over the planet now in humanity, is there's so many low level beings that are materializing, for the main reason that, let's say, like the spirit realm, let's say the human god, or whatever you want to call the human creator, is very prevalent in the spirit realm, but the human creator sort of can't allow those low level vibrations in the spirit realm, because they simply aren't able to even be there, because only high level vibrations can be there. So what I think keeps happening is, like, the low level vibrations keep materializing in bodies because they simply can't actually go to the spirit realm. So it's like a loop of incarnations over and over and over again, until these beings can learn how to elevate themselves. But sadly, in my opinion, a lot of these beings actually are going lower. So they come here over and over, like hundreds of lifetimes, to try to elevate, but they actually every lifetime are starting to go lower and lower. And that's why we're seeing the rise of AI. That's why we're seeing the rise of space travel, because these lower level beings simply are so low, to the point where they want to build a computer AI consciousness that governs them all, sort of like replacing their own creator in a way, and giving all the creator's power to a robot AI consciousness that doesn't have love. And that's the main thing, is humans. I believe the core of humans is love. Even the most evil ones, their soul is pure. It's the illusions that trick their soul into causing chaos and destruction. So what a lot of these people are doing now, they're subscribing to things like AI and all these materialistic viewpoints that take the love out of their own soul, and they don't even know it. It's a giant illusion that's killing the Earth, and the Earth isn't going to let that happen, though, because the Earth is boss here, not humans, and the balance is off. The scales are being tipped towards the lower level, and the Earth sees that. And right now is the great shift, in my opinion, where the Earth finally is like, okay, it's been low level for long enough. Now we have to make these scales balanced. But I'm gonna let y'all talk too.
Yeah, with the what you said about these lower energies, a lot of the time it's like a trauma loop, or like generational trauma that's not resolved, and that creates that like kind of that it keeps in those lower energies. So it's not like they choose it or something. It can be that it's imposed on them, like some trauma that they have not been able to heal through yet, and that's what they're
Yeah,
doing now.
they
We
haven't
we
been
need to
able to
heal
confront it.
on a collective level.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's a lot of, in my opinion, there's a lot of beings influencing humanity that aren't human, and they're more of like energies or spirits, that like to trick humans and like to keep humans in that loop you were talking about. And if you look at, let's say, the U.S. government, for example, if you see in the U.S., all everywhere on every corner you see alcohol stores and tobacco stores. You can buy alcohol anywhere, and it's promoted to be an alcoholic in this society where I live. I know you guys live in other countries, so maybe it's more frowned upon, but in America, it's actually promoted. And being addicted to cigarettes and stuff like that is also promoted. And then you look at these substances like, let's say, marijuana or psychedelic mushrooms that actually elevate your state of being. They're all banned, and you go to jail if you have them. And they're slowly starting to legalize in some states. But for the past like 100 to 200 years, people have been getting thrown in prison for simply sharing a substance like marijuana or psychedelic mushrooms that can help these souls overcome that loop. Like, personally, I've had psilocybin experiences, and I've overcome a lot of trauma that I never thought I could, just by having an experience like that. And sadly, the government here in the US has decided to ban those. And I feel like a lot of people that maybe were meant to have that experience and overcome the trauma are actually not able to because it's illegal, and they're too scared of actually taking that substance because they'll go to jail, and it's not their fault. It's because the government decided to do that.
And the government's controlled
And
by
the government isn't controlled by humans, that's for sure.
Now that I thought about the trauma thing, it's just more or less that they don't want to confront the trauma. They try to run away, and AI is sort of like the escape. Like this whole space thing, like
Oh
going
yeah.
there outside, is just a form of escape. And you can say the same for like alcohol and smoking. They're like
Hmm.
a form of stress relief and escape. And
Yeah.
they try to avoid confrontation. It's like they deny that there are problems. They deny
Yeah,
that
exactly.
the earth is like sick right now. The earth is just like sad or angry. They just
Hmm.
want to deny the reality of it.
I really
And
appreciate your perspective, by the way. I've been listening to what you're saying, and I think you're a very intelligent person, and I appreciate your perspective. I just wanted to let you know that.
oh, thanks.
Yeah,
And
you're very wise.
it is something I thought about.
Hmm.
It's a bit of the Asian perspective, I guess. Um, it's it's how it is. We should confront our own problems, and the earth has problems, and we should confront it. We should not try to escape those problems, and it's just we're living earth the way it is. It feels bad to think about it that this is the kind of things that we have done. We don't feel guilty about it. Like you can't just deny the bad things you've done. And if you try to escape them, they will just come back to you really bad. That's why
Yeah,
you have to like confront them. You have to face
exactly.
it.
Yeah, and
'Cause there's no escape. You have to face it early
yep.
on. So it wouldn't be that bad later.
Yeah, and
It's
the
just
longer
how it
you wait,
is.
the worse it gets. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and my mom would explain it like this. sh- it's almost like there's some type of, like, you ever heard of a sleeper cell? Or like, it's sort of like the way we explain it, it's like this part of the human consciousness that is like the thing that should have never been awoken, the thing that we should have never done. And I think that started with the oil industry, and from there it's turned into AI and space travel. And exactly like what you were saying, it's all an escape. It really is. It's because a lot of these billionaires like Elon Musk and these people that run a lot of the world that we live in, they know that the earth is changing, and instead of trying to fix it and trying to raise the vibrations, they would just rather build a spaceship and go to Mars. And as stupid as that sounds, that's what they think is right. um and it's just very odd to me because you have to use all the resources of earth to go to a different planet that is nothing like earth. It just makes no sense. You know, we live on Earth for a reason. I don't think going to Mars is the answer, and a lot of people do. It's very odd to me, but
Yeah. Earth really is our spaceship in a way. We don't
yeah,
need a
it's our
spaceship.
home. Well, yeah. Why do you think we're here? You know, in my opinion, I think that the spirits travel all around the galaxy and the universe, and they actually try to find planets that are able to host their creation. And in my opinion, the human creator, the human spirit, the human consciousness, whatever you believe in or whatever you know, um, I think the human consciousness, the only place for us is the earth. I think the human consciousness looked everywhere in the entire universe, and there's nowhere for us but the earth.
Yeah, we could like. I don't think Mars is even inhabitable for people. Like it's not warm enough for people, and you're going to live in what, a pod or something? That's
Yeah,
like restrictive. Like Earth
there's
at
no
least allows us to
biodiversity.
be
Humans
allows us to
require,
walk around. Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
we
Earth allows
require
us to
biodiversity.
appreciate everything.
If
Mm-hmm.
you look how we
Yeah,
even got to this point, we all these other animals and species helped us get here, and now we just want to leave it all. Like it's like the sleeper cell, man. It's the cell that has awoken in humanity. It's like a cancer cell. It starts out as one, and then it multiplies and replicates itself over and over, and then eventually it takes over the whole body. And that's like what's going on right now. And luckily there's beings of light like us and like a lot of other people that understand that this stuff is wrong. And in my opinion, just the fact that we exist is proof that there's a lot of good in humanity. Some people think that humanity is all evil and all bad. But if you look hard enough, there's a lot of love and there's a lot of good people. It's almost like there's, if you ever watch Avatar, um, what's his name? Hanya, what was Aang's or
You
the,
you mean Uncle Iroh?
oh yeah, Iroh. He said, so he was like, if you're in the, there you go, bro. You know Avatar. Okay. He was like, if you're in the spirit realm, if you look for bad, all you will see is bad. If you look for love and light, all you will see is love and light. And that's how I think it is on earth too. So if you know, all these people that just look for evil, that's all they're going to find. That's all, they're just going to see the evil in everything. So like when I look at a tree, personally, I look at a light being that literally is producing life. Without trees, we wouldn't even have oxygen. You know, trees are like some of the most enlightened beings on earth. They don't harm anything. They just exist and create. That's pretty much all trees do. But then another person could look at a tree and just see it as uh, something to cut down to build a house. And it's like that person is looking for the evil side of things. They don't ever see the light or the love because they're not looking for it.
yeah.
It makes
Now
me
that I think about it,
makes me
okay,
think
go on.
makes me also think about like in Egypt how wood was like reused. They made their houses in a way like they used like mud also to build their houses, but the wood that they did use they would reuse. So if an old house would be taken apart, they would reuse the mud and everything of it. That's kind of like how they were building their houses. So they really respected the material that they worked with. So there was
Yeah,
like they could just take it and reuse that. They could just return the mud to the soil, and then later on they could just take it again and build something new out of it, and then could
yeah,
reuse it. And same for the wood, they would find a use for it. So it would always be like passed
exactly.
on.
Yeah, and that leads me to want to talk about this too. I was talking about it on my stream yesterday. I think you were watching, but there's always polarities, and there's always the higher level concept and a lower level concept, and that's sort of like what the Egyptians were doing with the wood. So they were using the higher level concept of, hey, we cut a tree down, but we can reuse this tree like 10 times. And then the lower level is like in America, where we just cut a tree down, build a house, and then 10 years later, you demolish the house and throw all the wood in the scrapyard and cut another tree down. It's both the same concept, but you have one higher level and one lower level. I was even talking about that with like cars. So cars are time traveling devices, right? And there's a lower level and a higher level of time travel as a core concept. And the cars are the lowest level you can possibly get for time travel. And like, let's say the highest level is astral projection, or being able to physically teleport with your own mind, or maybe take your mind and your spirit and project it somewhere on Earth that you would like to time travel. And that's the same concept as a car, but it's just a higher level concept. And I think the main problem right now too is that the lower level beings, they have the same concepts as the higher levels, right? But they are practicing the lower levels. So when you incarnate on Earth, you sort of forget a lot of your knowledge. You when you're a baby, you're born into a new body, and you don't remember all your knowledge from the spirit realm. So if everybody, or if let's say over 50% of the people on Earth are practicing the lower level version of the polarity, then the higher level beings will be dragged into that too. So then the higher level beings will think that cars are the only way to time travel. And then eventually, now you see in America and in all the countries, the only way people think they can time travel is with a car. And all you see is roads everywhere. And you only see the low level, because the low level beings are actually making it seem like that's the only way. They're making it seem like there's no higher way. You can only do the lower way. And we have to break out of that box. We have to think outside the box and realize that the low level isn't the only way. And most of the beings on Earth are actually practicing the low level. And once more people realize that and break out of that box, that's when the high level can start being practiced. And all of it will be phased out. So, let's say America falls, for example, and there's no more combustion engines because you can't go to the gas station and get gas. Well, people are going to have to adapt, and everybody's going to adapt in a different way. And some people will adapt to the highest frequency vibration of the polarities. So time travel will still be a necessity even after America falls. But the higher levels are going to actually manifest time travel and manifest astral projection. And there's plenty of people that already do it in their dreams and have mastered that skill and can actually travel anywhere around the world consciously in their dreams. And in my opinion, that's just the start of it. And it's actually possible to do that with a physical body as well. So
I don't know. Part of it with this makes me think of like the snake goddesses that were worshipped in ancient Mediterranean cultures. There's like a lot of like things related to like the underworld, but also like I guess the dreams and unconscious, and shamans too. And they well, the original were women who did that role, but they similarly when they travel into these different states of mind, they because I talked to some shamans one time about it in one group also, that they go to particular places within their mind to perform something. And there's like, I don't know, but at the same time it also makes me think of kind of like this like section of like the Tao Te Ching where he's saying like talking about how how the people that are connected to the Tao don't even have any need for in that sense they were talking about carriages and like ships, because that was like the context of the time. But they were happy where they were, and they were just working together with like nature, and they were just growing old there, much like how you were talking about regarding like the tree too, like how the tree just is and grows.
It just doesn't harm anything. It actually creates, like here in Florida, we have massive oak trees, live oak trees, and they look like giant, like octopi. Their freaking limbs just squiggle all around the sky and stuff. And if you actually look closer, there's whole ecosystems living on the trees. So not only are the trees providing oxygen for all species on Earth, the trees are also literally hosting whole cities of different species like moss, ants, butterflies, bees, cats, whatever. It's a whole ecosystem just on a tree, and the tree's also producing the oxygen that all of us breathe.
Yeah, and they take care of the water cycle too. They bring the rains from the sea up. If there wasn't trees and forests, the rain doesn't like find its way there. But since there are trees, it keeps coming.
Yeah, exactly.
And they keep the landscape moisturized and ready for life, different kinds of life.
Yeah, exactly. And they keep the soil fertile too, because there's so much biodiversity in the soil around trees like mycelium and ants and worms and all these things. And when the trees start dying, there's no root system, because as above, so below, right? So on the top, it's producing all these environments for species to live, but then the roots are below, and they're also doing the same thing as above. And when we cut these trees down, we're really killing whole ecosystems just by cutting a single tree down. And people would say, well, oh, we have to cut them down for building houses or cities, but that's actually a complete fallacy, and it's based in ignorance. Because if you look all around the world, there's plenty of cultures that have built pyramids and giant cities out of the earth, and they used no wood whatsoever. They used adobe. Adobe is the main one. Adobe and cob. You can actually build houses that are better in every way than a wood house, and they don't require you to cut down trees and deforest the earth. Like for example, there's this thing called super adobe, and this is a modern approach. The ancients used the same technique, but pretty much you get a bunch of sandbags and you lay them on top of barbed wire, and then you cover them with chicken wire and a cement mixture. And when it gets hot in the summer, the house actually keeps cool. And then when it gets cold in the winter, the house actually keeps warm. It's
also weatherproof.
It's also flood proof, fireproof, hurricane proof, and it pretty much requires no maintenance because the materials can't rot. Like wood, for example, when it dies, it rots. That's another thing. It's like if you're building your houses out of something that can rot, that's a big problem. And these ancients, they thousands of years ago, they had better technology than us in America nowadays. And it's pretty interesting. You could look at the pyramids in Egypt and see that too, that they were cut with laser precision. They're still here 3,000 years later. And then stuff we build in America is getting deteriorated and destroyed in 10 or 20 years. And you just see that there's something that's sort of tricking humanity at that point. It's like you look back in the ancients and you're like, wow, how do these ancient people have all this immense knowledge, and they know how to build these highly advanced cultures and highly advanced ways to live? And nowadays we have none of that. We're just kind of going backwards. We're all we're doing is causing chaos and destruction. We can't even build houses without deforesting. It's a very odd predicament humanity's in, for sure.
Simone, I think you wanted to say something.
Oh, yeah. I think it's because they try to produce things like very fast, and the result of it is it will get destroyed very fast as well. As I remember, like going to this boarding house that is made of wood, and one of my classmates said that this thing is not up to standards because it could easily get burned or destroyed or get eaten by termites. It's just something that's very fragile, and it's built very quickly too.
Oh
So
yeah,
there's not much thought into it. Unlike
it's just
the
nailing
pyramids,
boards, you know.
which took very much like a long time to build it, but the like paid off, like the hard work paid off because it
Yeah, you
lasted
reap what
really
you sow,
long.
right?
I'm pretty sure like other buildings or establishment that are made of wood, they're still around. Like the only thing that could destroy them is potentially like bombs and shit. And like just think of Great Wall of China, it's still there. It exists. It's made of stones. And
Hmm.
I think stones are like very hard, like sturdy, and wood is just very fragile. It depends on what kind of wood though, but not every wood like grows very quickly like
Yeah,
bamboo does. Cause like bamboo is very like it grows fast and it's considered sturdy for its own. Like, you can see pandas climb on it and they still stay the same regardless
yeah,
of that.
yeah, and
It's
that's
just how
another
sturdy
thing.
bamboo is.
Like, so I
It's
used to
just
live in Oregon, and there's a bunch of forest people there that go in and clear cut. It's called clear cutting. If you ever come to America, go to Oregon, you'll see it. On the tops of mountains, there used to be giant forests, and then after like 10 or 20 years of logging, you'll just see that the whole entire top of the mountain is completely clear cut, and you can see it from miles away. And they try to say, in Oregon, this is their excuse. They're like, well, for every tree we cut down, we're planting 10 more trees. And it's true, they do. They plant like, I think, 2 to 5 trees per tree they cut down. The thing they don't realize is that, first of all, those trees grew in a time period um, where the climate was extremely different than it is now. Second of all, the trees take sometimes hundreds of years to get to that size. And third of all, our impacts on the soil and our impacts on the environment have changed the way trees grow. So to say, for these people to say that it's a solution to just plant more trees when we cut them, that's just ignorance and fallacy, because they have no clue what it took for that tree to get that old and to
Oh
get that.
yeah.
um
mm,
and it's like a band-aid. They're just putting a band-aid on a giant wound,
Yeah.
and it's just getting more infected and
We
bigger.
really, really, really need those old growth forests that we have left. We don't want to
Yeah.
get rid of those. We
Oh no,
we
yeah.
want those to stay very, very much. Thank you.
Yes, exactly,
they're
because
asking for more
those
like
can't grow
flammable
again.
stuff.
Those
Hmm.
can't grow again. That's the thing, is like the Amazon rainforest literally cannot grow back. Like, it grew in a time period um when it could grow, but now it can't. So every time we cut it down and burn it, like, it's crazy. In the Amazon, they literally have you might know of it, it's called slash and burn agriculture. And when people purchase farmland in the Amazon, they literally clear out acres of the forest with fire, and they just burn it down. And it actually gets out of control sometimes, and they end up burning acres and acres and acres of old growth rainforest by accident. And it's just one of the worst things going on, because, as you know, the trees are the lungs of the earth. Without the trees, there's no oxygen.
The other
So
lung of the earth is the plankton in the sea. Just wanted to add that.
The coral.
yeah,
Yes,
the
exactly.
plankton in the coral, and that's also being uh, phased out too by the rising temperatures of the water. Um, And it's like people, you hear all these debates and they're like, well, how do you know global warming's true? And I don't even like looking at it in a materialistic way. I like looking things at a spiritual perspective because, in my opinion, all material is a product of the spiritual realm. But like, let's look at it materialistically. So, if global warming wasn't true, then why are all the corals mass bleaching? There's been multiple scientific studies showing that the corals are bleaching themselves because of the rising temperatures of the ocean. And the more they rise, the more things are going to die because they simply can't thrive in that temperature. And it's directly correlated. Some people are like, okay, well, if it's true, then what if it's just a cycle of the earth? What if the earth just heats up and cools down? And it, through history, it actually has. But the thing is that right now, the way it's going, it's heating up way too fast for any species to adapt at all. And the reason for that is directly correlated to human activity. Because if it was natural, it would be happening way slower. The heating up and cooling down would be happening in a way where species could adapt and actually accommodate to the climate. But it's happening so fast that species are dying, and humans are directly the main cause for that. And we've already made hundreds of species extinct and thousands, hundreds of thousands of species endangered. And that's all directly due to us. Not us, but our consciousness as a collective, you know?
And I feel like I'll just say something really quick because I know that we've been talking a lot, but I feel like what was I gonna say? Oh my gosh, it just left my mind. Okay, I'll be back in a second. That just completely left my mind.
Yeah, I had something to like add about regarding like the sacred groves, regarding like the ancient cultures, because you have like Artemis and the Arctea that's connected to her. It's like ancient Greek, but it goes like all the way back to the Neolithic. So that's like hunter-gatherer. And there's like a lot of animal symbolism in there. And like Artemis is also like brought up as this like could call she bear, basically this feminine bear figure, as well as like this feminine maiden figure, even though like the she bear and the earth mother are also linked, but that aside. But one of the big things regarding like, you know, what I said with the Arctea that I mentioned, one big thing is that they were teaching like children, like boys and girls within like the temple space about the environment. So they had like a kind of like environmental education, I guess in modern terms we would call that, to like teach about like a concern for nature, protection of wildlife, and then also the establishment of sanctuaries and like sacred groves. So they would like these people, they would balance out the destructive side by pointing out like places, and they had like a particular say within ancient Greece, and they could be like, there no one's gonna cut, and they would have to respect that because it was the will of the goddess. And they would also do other things there with like the young girls. They would like sacrifice their toys that they would have, so that those would also be reused. And then you know, they would go to like other little girls that could have these toys instead, and then they would educate the girls specifically about like ethical hunting and like wildlife like management principles, but also generally had like these like rites of passage kind of things going on too for I guess girls to become women. But generally speaking, like for both men and women, when they were like children, there was like this educational aspect there, and like everyone had to go through that. Like it was like part of growing up. In Rome, they had like Feronia, that like it's an obscure Roman goddess that played like a similar role to Artemis, connected to like the earth, lower world, but also wilderness, woods and springs, harvest, fertility, but also like liberation. And she was also like connected to like the rock and as much as like to sacred groves and like sanctuaries, and with that, like both of them were teaching about that connection, and at some point people just forgot about it. It started to like fade from the memory once like people started to live in cities mostly, because it was just
what I'm thinking about what you're saying. So like all of those examples you provided, people were actually using spirits and beings that were higher than themselves to teach their collective. Whereas nowadays it's all based on selfishness. That's how in America. So the reason I keep bringing America up is because America influences the rest of the world through our actions. A lot of other countries have great influence and great history and culture. But for some reason, America sort of has taken the podium to influence the rest of the world and try to dominate the world. So in my opinion, if you want to look at where we're going wrong, you want to look at America as the number one culprit, because we're the ones influencing the rest of the world as a country. And in America, I can share from our education system, there's no such thing as higher spirits, or they actually ban it. You're actually not allowed to talk about spirits in school here. You're not allowed to talk about anything involving something that's out of the realm of science. So what they're doing here is it's a form of propaganda, actually, and it's brainwashing and propaganda, because they're actually using technology just like how Adolf Hitler did. They're using the highest form of technology they have to indoctrinate our youth into believing that there's no such thing as a spirit or no such thing as a deeper meaning. And that's why you were saying it seems like humanity has almost forgot that. And the reason we have is because we've been indoctrinated. We've been brainwashed into thinking that the only way you can view reality is from a materialistic perspective. And when you do that, you're actually Xing out the other half of reality, which is the spirit realm. And when you do that, it creates selfish individuals that only care about their own body. And they actually don't even realize that they have a spirit. So like personally, I know so many people that don't even know they have a soul, that don't even know they have a spirit. They believe that the only thing they are is a body, which it's very easy to understand that what a soul is or a spirit. But in America, we're so indoctrinated and brainwashed that a lot of that isn't even thought twice about, because nobody even thinks about that here, you know?
What it really is, what we need to do is to bridge that back, like that gap between the earth and the air, or like the earth and the spiritual, and to bridge that together again.
And
it's like it's all one.
That's my mission. Yeah, that's my mission. And it's like our generation and me and my sister and people in this call, we're gonna try our best to do that. But when you're up against things like AI and giant entities that control millions of people, at a certain point, it's like, how much impact can we make when 50% of the people don't even want to listen to the other 50%? Where it's so polarized. Like you have one side that believes in the spirit, and you have one side that would love to make impact and change, and then you have another side that really just doesn't care, and they just want to feel good, you know? So
But
like, how would we overcome?
I want to say that it really does make a difference for us, amongst us who believe it, and we can build that different future from what they are doing.
Oh, I agree for sure. Yeah, definitely. Nia, you should tell them about the dream you had about that like being that how it was. You remember what I'm talking about? Yeah.
So I had a dream, I think like 3 weeks ago or something like that, and it was a really interesting dream. It was kind of funny because there was this creature on Earth, and it was like a spirit that took a form, and the form was really unhuman like. It was like 60 feet tall. It was like pink and gooey, but it was running around and eating people like what you would see in like a dystopian movie or something. And I wasn't like an active character in the dream. I was more just watching from my perspective. And so I was watching this happen, and this being grabbed a human, and the human was like, "Don't eat me. I'm doing good. I'm doing good for the planet. I'm enlightened and I do good for this earth. I'm not like the others." And the being was like, "I see I see what you're doing and I like what you're doing, but humanity can't move forward until 100% of humans are doing what you're doing." And it's great that all of us, what I took from that is like, it's great that there's so many people on this earth that are trying to do good, and we are doing good, and we're moving forward, and light and love will prevail in the end. But as long as there's evil still on this earth, we really can't move forward into the next epoch. Like, it has to be 100%. And there's also another quote from this person on YouTube. I don't remember it exactly, but he was talking about being sustainable and not throwing away your food and trying to use all of the resources that you have. And he was saying that there can't be just a number of humans doing everything perfectly. All of humans have to do right and have to do it imperfectly. So there can't just be like 25 people out of 100 trying their absolute best. All 100 people have to give it a shot. And even if we're not all perfect, everybody has to be on that mindset to move forward and to actually create change.
Yeah. That, and what I take from that is it almost creates a power struggle. So like we're making change. Let's say like 50% of the consciousness is making change and becoming enlightened, but then the other half that isn't, it creates a power struggle. So one side is sort of trying to fight against the other, and I guess that's the main goal of the earth, is like I was talking about, is balance. So it's sort of being balanced, not everybody can be on one polarity. You got to be in the center. When we're in the center, we can actually come together as a consciousness. But when we're on the poles, the north and the south pole, it's never gonna, nothing will happen, because one side will just pull as hard as the other. And I give that to the earth. I think that humans are trying their best, but we need the earth's help. We need the earth's guiding hand for us to actually be able to move forward into light. I don't know if we're capable of it without the earth, and that's why we're here, because the earth is our mother, the divine feminine mother, and we need her to get her guiding motherly hand and say, I know what's right. I will restore balance, and I will make it possible for you humans to agree on something, for you humans to be able to be balanced and be in the center. Because I feel like right now we're trying to do it on our own in a way, and the earth is stepping up, and that's what we need, is the earth to finally just be like, I'm the one that's the missing puzzle piece. I'm the one that can change everything, and the reason I haven't is because I'm letting you guys grow. All this evil, we're learning from it. all of these technology inventions we have, we're learning why we shouldn't do it. You know, we're seeing the effects, and hopefully we'll never do it again once we reach that age of light. Hopefully history won't repeat itself, and we'll actually realize that we shouldn't do all these bad things that are obviously bad.
I feel like what happened is industrialization sort of took everyone's soul, and like it's our soul that connects us to the earth. Like whenever you think about the independent craftsmen, they at least respect earth that much, because most of the creations they make are like very sturdy and it could last very long, like generations long. And what happens today is like most of these things are like mass produced products, and
Yeah,
I guess you can see like how soulless industrialization has made humanity be. Like there's no soul in these creations. Like there's no care about it. You can
yeah,
tell like how easily it could just get destroyed. It's like you can see that there's not much soul put into it. Like there's no care. And I think that at some point people will try to find those things, like their own soul, and the only way you can do that is to reconnect with nature and, quit the industrialization job. Is
yes,
that is like draining everything from you. It drains your creativity, it drains your life
yeah,
force. Like it's just like
exactly.
any office job is like killing you slowly, and it's like you're just living your life that way. Like you're like in this cage, and I feel
Hmm.
like that's what industrialization feels like. And it has affected so many generations because like the education system sort of based off of like that kind of system where people just obey and they're like treated as factory workers. So anything to do with the soul is taken away from you since you were like a kid, and that's just how you're controlled. And when people start realizing that something is missing, they would try to go back to where things come from. Like you can tell like the civilization of the earth today is like a child growing up, and like the very start of the civilization we have like we're very creative and we're very
Yeah,
connected to our mothers,
like the
and
pyramids and Mayans.
we're like at the point of like adulthood, and the adulthood is so boring and corporate and that kind of stuff. It's like all of our soul is just taken away. And at some point, some adults like retire really early because they got tired of the whole corporate thing, and they would like go back to their mother. Like I think it's really common in Asian culture where you like live with your parents, and
Hmm.
it's like you feel the closeness, at least you still have a soul because like you're still with your family and you still have fun together and enjoy things together. And I think the whole idea of independence sometimes could be like the total killer because people are becoming more lonely. And that's like the point. That's what industrialization does to a person.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And especially in America, there's this normalization of family separation.
Oh yeah.
And like what you were saying, in Asian cultures, our mother was Dravidian Indian, so we weren't raised with the idea of just leaving your family. But in America, it's just so
Promoted.
common and it's promoted to just go off to college, go and get a job so you can create a new family that could work in the factory, and then a new family, and a new family, and a new family. And then you separate from your parents, and you're not one with your blood and your family and your soul tribe. And you just go off and you create new families and
New, yeah.
then new people that can be turned into slaves. And that's how America views their population, and it's really sad. There's no love and healing in our society. It's just create a new one. It's just like mass production. It's like what they do, and they're doing it to the animals too. They make puppy mills, and they make animal mills where they just mass produce hundreds of thousands of puppies to give to these families that are also separated, so they can just have a sense of a nice happy life. But really they're not one in their community, or they're not one with their fellow human next to them, their brothers and their sisters. They're all just separated so they can it's as simple as divide and conquer. And that's what America's like main policy is, it seems.
So yeah, like to butt in real quick here, in Western society, schools were initially funded and created by like the Rockefeller types. It's basically to get people at a young age used to being on concepts like new standardized time, and making deadlines and making sure your logical brain is developed and that you're basically embedded into a subservient system where you're dependent on the Western economic model.
Yes,
And
sir.
then further, like the religious and spiritual concepts are largely taught as these kind of archaic remnants of the past that really
Yep.
don't have any value in a modern society. And if you do try and bridge the gap, you're kind of seen as, I don't know, like new agey or something. They're kind of like the way that they
Yeah,
viewed you.
you're seen as like hippie or this or that.
Yeah.
It's because humans, not all humans, but most humans fear change. And when people like us get together and talk about new concepts and talk about how we can change, the older generations actually get scared. They don't want to hear this, man. They want to be able to drive their car to the grocery store and have the same old system that they grew up in. And as soon as they have an inkling of a feeling that that's going to change, they do everything in their power to stop that. And that's what we're
There's
seeing
also
right
the
now.
people that just want to destroy everything and learn nothing from the past, because then they can sort of create their own world
Yeah,
in their image
I
out of the
think
chaos.
that's
But
people like Elon Musk, in my opinion.
and
They
then
just
you
want to
also
wipe it
have,
all.
yeah, with like the culture war, terms like environmentalism and all the climate stuff are so embedded in the culture war now that you can't even use these words or this vernacular without bringing up a political discussion in itself, even though
Yeah,
neither side really wants to fix the problem. All our politicians, they came out of these academic models where
yeah,
there is no religion or spirituality in it. So really the only way out of it is like a grassroots kind of movement from the people,
yeah. Just
basically.
growing your own food and aligning with the earth, because we came out of the earth, so we got to go back to our roots exactly. And that what you just said brings me back to the polarity thing. So if you look at the U.S. government, we have Republican, Democrat, and those are the two poles. And if you look at the people in America who identify as Republican or Democrat, there's over half of the population that identifies as one of the two poles. And that's extremely, extremely bad, because that means that over half the country is divided. And then if you look at the people who identify, let's say, as they don't care about either side, they just want good to happen and they want our society to get better, I'd say it's probably less than 10% of America is like that. So like I was saying, there's always the higher level and the lower level concepts of or vibrations of a concept. And the Democrat and the Republican is the lowest level you can possibly get of a government, because what it does is it inherently creates division just by existing. Like, oh, you are a Republican, you are a Democrat. Just by saying that, you just divided two people. You just turn them
And
into puppets, pretty much.
even the ones that are decent, there's a couple, they still have to subscribe as either, they still have to declare themselves as either a Republican or a Democrat just to like rise up in the ranks.
Yeah, exactly. And then they create this illusion of fairness and voting. And I was talking about it with you in the grocery store the other day. Like people think, oh, it's so fair in America. We have a democracy, but you like literally can't run for any position of office unless you're a millionaire. Like you literally just can't. I mean, you have to have millions upon millions of dollars in funding to even run for president. And if you don't have that, you just can't do it. There's no way
Nope.
you can compete. It's
They'll
like
fund
trying.
you if you bend the knee.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's like this. It's like trying to create your own NFL team in your backyard. And you're like, all right, guys, we're making it to the NFL, and it's like, no, you're not. You have to have millions of dollars to be in the NFL. That's just not going to happen. And same thing with our government. It's not like all these people. You look at these senators, and their base pay is like $80K a year or $100K a year, and then you look at their net worth, and they're worth millions of dollars. And you're like, oh wait, how are you worth millions of dollars when you've only been a senator for like 2 years or 3 years? And it's because these companies are straight up paying them, and a lot of them have admitted to it. They literally get bribed to make laws, and it's just this whole system in America is completely based on greed. So any attempt to try to quote unquote revise it or fix it is just futile because the core mechanism for how it operates is greed, and it's been built on that since the Constitution was founded. Like literally, if you look at when the Constitution was written, it was a bunch of rich people. It was a bunch of rich white men from England that wanted to create a society like England, um, or like the UK, but without kings and queens. So instead of kings and queens, they replaced that with money. Um, and money governs everything in this country, and the root behind money is greed. And the way you can see that is because the people with the most money, they simply act for themselves. Like if you, let's say Elon Musk, he's not the richest man in the world, but to the public he is. There's many more rich and powerful people that are controlling the strings above him. But to the public, he is the richest man in the world. And if you look at what he's doing right now, if you look at the deeper meaning, so he just bought Twitter, right? And he's also the leading developer of AI. Um, so the reason he bought Twitter, it's very apparent. It's to pretty much fund his Neuralink program with the data of Twitter. So Twitter is the number one most data rich social media platform in the world right now. So if you're Elon Musk and you want to build a chip that goes in people's heads called Neuralink, you need as much data as you possibly can to think about how a human brain or mind operates. So what would you do? You would buy a social media platform that tracks the most amount of people in the world. And that so happens to be Twitter. So he purchases Twitter, and he's taking all of this data and literally siphoning it straight into an AI that's currently, as we speak, creating a program that will go into people's brains one day. That's his end goal, and he's already announced that publicly. Neuralink is literally chips in people's heads through AI. So yeah, that's where the richest man is going right now.
But maybe we should get back to feminine Earth.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I do think like that part of the solution is like like you said, like growing the food locally more, like food forests and local farms, smaller farms than we have now. Like they don't have to be that big. We don't have to use that huge machinery and stuff. We can do it small scale. And to bring back the appreciation of material and ecosystems. We need the ecosystems. We can appreciate the material that we do have and use that in many ways and recycle it. And there's many ways to do it. And to bring the focus back to the love of the craftsmen who work with their material and with the product that they think about that it's durable and useful and beautiful and it will last a long time, like Simone said. So yeah,
Yes.
these things, I really think it was like an awesome conversation. We have brought so much stuff up, and I'm really grateful for all the voices here today.
Yes, and thank you for saying that. I appreciate what you said about farming. It brings me back to what I was saying about not everybody, not just a select people doing something perfectly, but everybody doing things imperfectly. Like with the farming, we can't have just a select amount of people producing the food for everyone. We need everybody producing just enough food for their family and their tribe. And that's what I think going back to the earth is really doing, is everybody doing what they can to be sustainable, not just one person sustaining whole populations and whole countries. That's just not, it doesn't work. And it's been created that way so that most people can focus on ego concepts instead of the nature and the earth. But it's switching back, and we can all feel that it's going to reset back to the natural way, and everybody having to sustain themselves and be with the earth. And that's not a choice anymore. It's not going to be a choice, because it really isn't. And we didn't come to this earth to ignore the earth. We came to the earth to praise her and to live with her. The earth gives us these gifts, being able to nourish ourselves with her fruit and quench ourselves with her water. It's really a blessing, and a lot of people don't see that, but we will, and the collective will in due time.
GnosticNun, I think you wanted to say something, maybe?
Well, I will say that it's a lot more difficult to even grow enough food to sustain yourself consistently than people imagine. Like, there are real skills that go into learning how to cultivate and preserve food. And so a lot of that has really been lost. Like, the earth does provide, and so it's kind of ridiculous that people even have to spend money on food. But money itself, like, we can't oversimplify things. Like, it's difficult to barter in a major economy with, like, millions of people, and you're not just a tribe. We're so far away from that. Like, people are so far away from even, like, not even being in community in a lot of cases, but even just relating, like, at all. People are,
Oh yeah, especially in America.
well, all over, but there are different things. Like, I mean, on the world stage, it's like, who's the baddest baddie? Well, we're still in this mindset of domination. And, as bad as America is and how we've been brainwashed, like, there are other, it's like someone will fill a power vacuum at this stage in our conscious development. Which is, like, unfortunate. But do you all grow?
What you were saying about growing your own food. So in Florida, we're actually in the Tropic of Capricorn here, and we can grow tropical fruits of all different kinds. We can grow avocados. We could pretty much grow every kind of plant you could imagine here. And like, I personally, right now, I'm going to be uploading a lot more videos about it and editing stuff, but I'm growing enough food to feed a small village right now, with a farmer that I'm working with. And we have a cat tunnel and a giant, like, fields of sweet potatoes, bok choy, kohlrabi, kale. And I'm actively doing this for my future, so I can help other people learn how to do this. And that's why I even have a YouTube channel, is so I can promote and show people how to grow their own food. Because eventually in the future there won't be a choice. We'll just simply have to do it. When the fossil fuels run out and stuff, we're not going to be able to transport food like we do now. It's going to all have to be local. And of course, not everyone's going to be able to grow their own food to sustain themselves. But if you have enough people that can grow food efficiently, they can fill in those gaps. So, like, let's say a family grows 50% of what they eat, but then there's a farm that's growing like 300% more than what they can eat. So that farm could easily fill in that gap for the family. And it'll all work out like that on a local level. My only concern is that areas where it snows a lot and areas where it's colder that aren't in Florida, in America, for example, you simply can't grow that much there unless you have like uh, uh, these dome structures or greenhouses. So that's a big issue. And I think what's going to happen is mass migration because people are going to realize that. And really, there's a big water crisis too. So as much as we'd like to grow our own food, you can't do that without water. And in most of the parts of America, there's a huge water problem, especially in the desert, like California, Nevada. I personally drove through there and saw Lake Mead, which supplies 30 million people with drinking water. And it's currently, I think it's like 75% evaporated from its former level. Like every year, the evaporation goes down miles and miles. And it's getting really bad with the water crisis. And that's a big problem that most people are completely unaware of, is the fact that the water supplies for millions of people are running out as we speak. So it's either you migrate or you find a way to generate water for yourself and your family and your town. But the thing is like if there's 30 million people from California migrating across the country, even if you find a way to be sustainable for your family, those people that are migrating are not really going to care about you, and they're going to trample on everything you've created. So, in my opinion, it's one of the best things you can do is be in a place that doesn't have a water crisis. That's a big issue right now.
I don't know. One thing, what I can say about all of this is just that I don't know. I guess regarding water, it comes back to like I guess what Lynn was talking about regarding the trees. For instance, the Egyptians, they had like this particular rule where you couldn't dam the water or cut down trees in particular places because it was just banned. It was gonna upset like the Ma'at or the cosmic order. And really what they were doing was like they were funneling the water in from the ocean into like this like enclosure that's Egypt, and then they were and that this water could flow. So water was flowing from like further down from Africa through like through the Nile and these other rivers down, but also there was this flow coming at the same time as well. And
Okay.
something similar can be done too. It's like to funnel the water into the mountains again, but that needs like trees on top of the mountains to be to be doing that. And
And I agree that's possible in other areas of the world, like where you're at and in Egypt and stuff. But like for example, in America, like we've just depleted so much here, and there's so many cities that are literally built directly in the middle of the hottest desert in the whole country, like Las Vegas, for example. And no matter what you do, we've depleted so much that sort of chaos is going to have to happen. Like there's really no avoiding it. So it's either you get out or you stay and wait for it to happen. That's like your two options. In Las Vegas, there's no ocean within, hundreds of miles. It never rains there. There's no trees anywhere. All the water that's there is in a man-made lake called Lake Mead. Lake Mead supplies 30 million people. And then it also gets fed by another lake in Utah, which is also running out. And it's simply due to the fact that these cities are built in deserts. And there's no water in the desert. So no matter what you try to do in the desert, there's always going to be a water crisis. Like Egypt is lucky because they're closer to like the Nile.
Yes.
And yeah, but the
exactly.
thing is in America, there's none of that. Like there's no rivers near Las Vegas. It's all Lake Mead. And when Lake Mead is done, it's done. There ain't no way you can refill it. There's been some people proposing the idea of building a pipeline from the Louisiana River to Lake Mead, but that would, first of all, be one of the greatest undertakings in American history. Second of all, we just simply don't have the resources for that right now. The price of diesel fuel is like almost $6 a gallon. So if you want to try to build something like that, it would cost millions in just fuel alone, not even counting labor and materials. And that's like the only solution that the government has thought of. And they're really just keeping it a big secret, the Lake Mead crisis. But it's really easy to research about. You just got to look it up on YouTube or online. It's like nowhere on the news, though, because they know that mass panic would immense and start to happen if they showed this stuff on the news. So they're sort of, it's kind of like they would rather report about Kanye West and all this other stuff to just distract people than actually focus on the issue. Because if they did, there'd just be mass riots and people would just start turning to chaos because they automatically will realize that that's the only option is either you turn to chaos or you move away from where the crisis is at. Luckily, in other places of the world, like you were saying, there is solutions. I just think America, our society is so based on consumerism, and we've gone so far with that there's nothing left. Like, it's so dry here, man. Like, it's just all sucked up.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I personally believe like there's in a lot of places there's plenty that one could be doing.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that if you're interested in those kind of things like the water table and how to replenish it, Andrew Millison has great video about that, and he also has about ecosystems and how to restore them and things like that on YouTube. So Andrew Millison.
Oh, I'll look that up for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything Michael is saying, but just also to kind of play a little devil's advocate and develop it a little bit, and like GnosticNun brought this up too. As stagnant as the West has become, we are far from the worst power in the world. And our systems of government do allow for change and individual choice if we exercise it, especially from the ground up, instead of waiting for it to happen top down. And I'm speaking in, generalized oversimplifications here, and it's more complicated than all that. But, thinking like that does help remind us that we do have power in this as individuals. And like, as far as consumerism goes, if we stop buying dumb shit and doing dumb shit all the time, then, it would stop being sold to us because it's not profitable.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
exactly.
we do, Michael, we definitely do need people like you to do it, live it, and show other people how to do the same.
That's why I moved to Florida, man. Because this is the only state you can actually kiss mangoes and avocados and bananas goodbye if you don't have a geothermal dome. I mean, that's the only way you could grow them in the snow. And right now, our whole economy is relying on diesel fuel. So, you can't really ship stuff when you don't got diesel. And then you can only really grow it in your local
Prices
area.
Inflated. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's one thing I wanted to bring up too. It's like,
Sure.
I know for a fact, because I've been looking into like the founding fathers of America to be playing a little bit more devil's advocate here. That with regarding to that, like they had been looking to Egypt a lot, but like, you know, like regarding like Ma'at and like these concepts. But one thing that I can bring up is that I think in the execution, like there's like and of the concepts, there's like a lot of stuff getting lost there. They did have like some understanding of like the spiritual of spiritual concepts in their own way, but I think that one important thing about Ma'at in the connection to Egypt is that Egypt was connected to the Mother Earth, to like Hathor and Sekhmet, like how they had this like duality of like the nurturing mother, but also like this destructive but also like wrathful side of the mother, like how she can become like this like lioness that comes to like tear down the tower that's
Tower of
can't
Babylon,
stand.
bro.
Yeah, it's the Tower of the Terror card coming down. But you know, but after the tower comes the star, and I think like Rain Fox, you had posted something about that regarding the star, but also the Empress.
Yeah, if we want to segue to that, I can talk about those real quick.
Would be awesome.
On 1 second here while I bring up my notes. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and go in sequential order here and talk about the Empress first. So that's tarot card number 3. It would represent the mysterious power birthing eternal life, so as well as the tremendous destructive power of natural disaster. You can see this like on the news all the time, as most hurricanes are given female names. It's the embodiment of beauty and happiness, but a fickle mistress in a state lacking interest and concentration. Anyone around the Fox Den know that's kind of like the flow that we talk about, flow and stagnation. She represents the unifying power of opposites, usually through love. And as the number 3, and following in kind of like the tarot, the number 1 card, the Magician, would be like ego consciousness. Added to the Priestess, number 2, which is like your link to the unconscious, would yield number 3, the Empress. And this would be related to like the German I think it's German, of Gestalt. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And it is like when you combine the first 2 in proper balance, it creates a new one as the third.
Oh wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and
I understand that.
If we talk a lot about Proto-Indo-European mythology around here too, and that's kind of like the divine twins and Trito. So in tarot, all the cards have sort of slightly varied meaning in relation to what card comes after or before it or what's next to it. So in relation to High Priestess number 2, which is like your link to the unconscious, the Empress would be the power with whom the priestess is communing with. So more like the global or collective unconscious in that sense. So like physically, the Empress would be the natural power of birth, while the priestess itself would be any specific woman giving birth. And you'd also see that male shamans would embody feminine aesthetic, would wear like suits with breasts or have flowing robes or things like that. Even like the Pope has flowing robes, embodying the aesthetic during their work. And for the Jungians, you can also see some like evolution of the anima in there. And in relation to the card afterwards, number 4, the Emperor. So the Empress would be the circle, the Earth, third planet from the Sun. Number 3, to be squared by the Emperor. Number 4, there's the squaring of the circle in alchemy. And number 4, the geometric correlative of number 4 being the square. So the Empress is this natural force that makes the garden grow. right? The eternal birthing power of nature, while the emperor tends to the garden before it turns to jungle. But we don't really have that problem right now. What we have is, things being cleared away and completely destroyed.
Infertility almost.
Yeah.
Like
So,
when you plant a seed, the soil is just so bad that the seed can't even sprout. It's like, it's very sad. But it'll all be taken back by the earth for sure. Humans are just a little blip in the grand scheme of things.
And that leads directly into the star card. That would be card number 17. So we're skipping ahead quite a bit here. But card number 16 would be the tower, or the blasted tower. You know how in tarot there's the upright and the downward meaning. So the tower being destroyed is not always necessarily a bad thing. Like, as I like to say, sometimes your tower just needs to be remodeled a little bit. But so card number 17, the star card, it's often kind of referred to as a kind of ray of hope. In the tower card, there's usually two figures falling from the tower as it's destroyed by the bolt of lightning. These figures almost always are retaining their clothing, kind of symbolizing like a persona or a mask. So they, while they have endured this act of being humiliated, they still retain their clothing. But the feminine figure of the star is nude, although she's not like embarrassed or shamed by it or anything. But it just simply means she has no mask behind which to hide, and it has humbled her. So in the tower, they have been humiliated, but the figure of the star has learned humility. So she is not the hero who you see in the other cards, because she is an eternal feminine figure of the universe, kind of like the caretaker of Earth is kind of how I see it. She is grounded upon the earth and also next to the shore with two water pitchers, much like the Angel of Temperance or the Alchemy card, but she is very much human and not a winged angel. The flash of illumination that destroyed the tower can be calmly and openly guided down by the figure of the star in a more grounded manner. So the waters from her pitchers are poured onto the grounds and into the rivers, or into the waters, reviving all dormant life on the ground and replenishing the flow to the waters. One of the main books I'm using to go into the symbolism of the tarot here is Sally Nichols. She studied at the Zurich Institute, the Jungian Institute in Zurich. She remarks that the figure of the star, like a fairy tale princess, was possibly trapped in the blasted tower of the god gone mad, our modern logos. So above her are the small scattered stars surrounding one bright large one. And following the dismantling of the tower, a new symbol of the self emerges upon which to orient your cosmos. They are guiding forces as the ancient seafarers use the stars to navigate. Symbols of the self often manifest during times of chaos as guiding lights. There's usually a tree in the background, which, while reaching up to the heavens, has its roots planted deep in the earth where it began, more stable than its tower counterpart. And trees also kind of, with their individual branches being individuality and an individual, they're part of, a larger tree, the collective. So again, we see kind of a return to all the small parts being part of something larger than themselves. The figure of the star understands and teaches the natural flow of all things, which the builders of the tower did not heed. And she marks the beginning of the tarot's journey into the stars and eternity, a shift away from the primary focus on individuality and return to a more collective state of being with humanity as well as the earth and the universe.
Wow. That's beautiful, dude. You're very talented.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. What I got from that is sort of like, I don't know if you've ever read Rudolf Steiner, if anybody has, but he explains during the Industrial Revolution, humans sort of attained true free will, if that makes sense. So like, let's say before the Industrial Revolution, there was sort of like a guiding hand in humanity that guided us towards certain things. But during the Industrial Revolution, we sort of, as a consciousness, turned towards individualism and free will. But that's only a short time period of our consciousness, and we will return back to the collective consciousness. Maybe we have to experience this individualism, free will thing for a little bit to learn why the being a part of a collective consciousness is actually a lot more creative.
Well, you could have both.
But you could have both, you know, you got to align them both. Sort of
Yeah.
like the science and the spirit, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like science, that is a representation of the ego and the individualistic viewpoint. It's like, I see this material is atoms, blah blah blah, which is not bad. But when we only do that, that's when we pick the south side of the polarity. And then I'd say the north side of the polarity, it's not, if you think about astrology, it's like south node and north node. I'd say the north side of the polarity is like the spirit realm and the spirit behind all matter. And if you pick too much of that, that's also bad, you know. So it's about that balance. And it always returns to balance. I think any conversation like this, the end goal of all of this is balance, and being able to actually entertain each side of the polarity but remain centered.
Yeah.
You know, it's like somebody coming up to you and talking about all this blah blah blah, and you just stay calm and stay centered, and you don't have to shift your viewpoint, but you can actually still talk with them and entertain what they're saying, but it doesn't change you. You still stay in the center. Yeah, that's my goal as a person, is to be as balanced as I possibly can be. I would never like to be on either side of the polarities. Being balanced is my main goal.
I don't know. One thing I wanted to bring up is that kind of this phase of individuality made me think of like what we have been. I've been talking about like this like Indo-European myth. Even though like there's in different cultures, there's like different versions of it, but specifically for the Indo-European myth, there's like it's like, well, with Artemis you had that, but in some way, but also with like the men, you had like this like rite of passage kind of moment where you become like an individual, and you're an individual, and then at some point then you return as like the ancestors. It's like you're like both alive but you're dead. So it's like the undead are being led, and then they're going back into like the community into it used to be seen as like feminine, because in like Norse mythology there's these different like figures like Freyr, but that also links to like in Finnish mythology it's like often linked to like Pekka too, but how he's coming back to the feminine, and he gives his sword, so his individuality back to the feminine that represents the community, so the collective, and these figures, like, so like the people who would be doing that would then be reconnected to the collective, and I guess like the self, and like in spiritual terms you could say it like to spirit, and then they're reconnected to it, and it's like I guess like it's something to do with like facing one's shadow and facing like I guess the polarities, but there's like a need to like also then come back. And it used to be like something we were doing, and that was just a phase of human life, and so we're just going through that. Like as an individual, we would just go through these phases, but it seems like I guess we're also, I guess, as a higher, I guess, from a collective level, we're going through like similar things as well.
Oh yeah, I agree. Everything that an individual experiences, we're also experiencing as a collective. You know, yeah, it's like microcosm, macrocosm, as above, so below. I almost also view it like this. Let's say you have like a really bad habit, or you're struggling really bad with, I don't know, let's say there's a lot of, I feel like each generation has a curse. I think my one of my generation's biggest curses was video games, especially for men. Like most men that I know from my generation are addicted to video games, and they still are. I myself have played a lot of video games, and it's a really big thing for people of my age group to overcome just sitting on a computer or an Xbox all day and staring at the screen playing a game. And it's escapism, kind of like what Simone was saying. And I feel like, let's say, like personally, I haven't played a game in a few years now. I view that as, since I overcame the addiction of video games a few years ago, I sort of did that for the collective consciousness too. So, overcoming an addiction or a bad habit personally can actually equate to the consciousness overcoming that as well. And that really shows how powerful we are. And I think that's what the spirit realm really wants us to know and needs us to know, is how powerful each individual human really is, and that our thoughts can literally create their own realities. And our vibrations are so strong that we don't even know the slightest amount of how powerful we are. We can only discover it and experience it. You know, we can't ever measure it. It's like what I was saying on my stream. Measuring, when we try to measure time, all it does is loop, because time doesn't exist. We're trying to measure something that's infinite. So that's why you just loop it. It's just 24 hours in a day, day after day after day, 365 days in a year after year, and it just never ends. It's just the infinity symbol. And that's the closest representation to infinity that we can come, is just a symbol. And all the symbol says is just a loop. So when we stop trying to measure things that are infinite as a collective, we will really reach some enlightenment, in my opinion. Because right now, humanity is really just, we're trying to measure the earth and measure how the earth works. And it's like, you can't measure something that's infinite. It's literally impossible. It's in the word. It's in the concept of infinity. Like, that's what infinity means, is that it's immeasurable. So the
We
fact
have
that
a very human tendency to mistake the symbol and the meaning. So we focus on trying to define the meaning, and then we get caught up on the symbol.
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, Vervaeke talks about how video games induce a flow state, but you're not doing anything for your own personal development or for society. That's why it makes them so dangerous. It's like, escapism through drug abuse as well.
Yeah, it's like it brings that video games, it brings that good creative energy, but it applies it to the completely wrong thing. And that's what's really terrible, is it harnesses that love from within you that drives you to want to do stuff like that, like have fun and be in that flow state, as you were saying. But it's not anything that's reality based that you can actually apply and
it's
and
just
put to the
pixels
earth.
on a screen, you know. And that really goes into what Simone was saying, about how humans sort of don't want to confront what is their trauma and their shadow and stuff like that. So they try to go into escapism. And it's going even deeper than video games now. Like, people literally want to create alternate realities and stuff. And in my opinion, that's the most extreme form of escapism, because you're actually taking yourself away from the earth, away from the divine earth and the feminine mother, and you're actually just putting yourself in a virtual reality that doesn't even exist. It's just completely fabricated by zeros and ones. And there's another polarity, zeros and ones, right? And that's all of our technology is built on zeros and ones. Yes or no, good or bad, right? So inherently, this technology that we use is inherently dividing us, actually. That's literally its core mechanism. Its core mechanism is division. It divides everything into a 0 or a 1, and then it produces an image that we see, which is just a pixelated illusion, that takes us away from the earth. And the spiritual being behind that train of thought, if you read Rudolf Steiner, it's actually, his name is Ahriman, and that's one of his names. If you look in the ancient Turkish religion, Zoroastrism was one of the first ever religions created, and it was created in Turkey. And they would actually talk about this ancient being that sort of is a mistake of the cosmos, and even the Egyptians describe him too, but they don't say he's Ahriman. They have a different name. Sort of the way the Egyptians, I like Egyptian stories a lot. So the way the Egyptians described it is that when the galactic mother created the universe, she spit out something by accident, and it happened to be a little slithering snake that swam away before she could catch it.
Sounds
And
like
it was,
Gnosticism.
yeah, it was the mistake of the universe, pretty much. And hypermaterialism, that's what it represents. And let's go ahead.
Gnostic Zsofia gives birth to the demiurge, which is like the illusory world that we are trapped in.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And this story is everywhere, all throughout the world, in all religions, pretty much. And it's definitely taking a toll on our ability to create, for sure. Like kind of what the lady was saying. She was talking about the industrialization, how like before, let's say like a shoemaker put their soul into making a pair of shoes, and like they lasted a long time, and the shoes actually had sort of like a spirit in them, versus now they're just made on a conveyor belt in a factory, and there's really no soul in the shoes, and they break down way faster. My sister wants to say something now.
Just what Michael was saying about the industrialization brought me to what we've been talking about with our friends, and we have a lot of artistic friends, and we were on call with him the other day. The specific person we were talking to, his name is Ben, and he was talking about how the industrialization has gone so far that they're now creating AI art. And that's just insane to me, because a lot of people, it's easier to justify robots and machines making shoes and clothes, but now they're starting to do that with art, and AIs are generating art and trying to say that that can replace human expression of art. And that's just, it's incredibly sad to me, because it's stripping the whole essence of art, what art even is. It's a human's love and human's energy being put into a picture, or music, or anything that can be materialized for the senses. It's human love that is expressed through senses, whatever the sense is, whether it's sight, hearing, touch, and or taste. And what AI is doing, they're creating that sense. They're creating like a art piece, but it has no love. It has nothing. Like Michael was saying about the shoes, Mikael, the shoes have no love. They don't have any energy put into them, so it doesn't last, and It's not something that you actually can see and can feel the energy from.
I think a lot of that, I mean, even I've been looking into that. It's like it used to be like connected, and I guess there's like you know, like how you're pointing out with this too, like with shoes, but also with art. And but I think a lot of it is like there's this connection also between consciousness or the ego, but also unconsciousness. It's where our creativity comes from. It comes from, I guess in spiritual terms you could put it that it comes from the spirit world. But it's the unconscious. That's the source of creativity, of meaning, of all these different things, and it doesn't come from like, it's not consciousness like creating something, because people used to like in like the ancient cultures, they understood like that art and anything that they were making, they were kind of a channel for particular deity, for particular deity or spirit or something along these lines that they were kind of like bringing up. So they were helping kind of that to birth something into this into this
channeling
world.
Exactly, yeah. So how can a robot channel? That's what.
Yeah. It's like, and it's like we're going so deep into this illusion as a consciousness that we're literally, like you were just saying, it's not our consciousness that creates, it's the spirits behind that that we allow into our consciousness. And we're just a medium, bro. We're the paintbrush. That's all we are. We're the paintbrush, they're the painter, and this material world is the paint. It's like there's another saying, it's like he's the potter, we're the pottery, you know. We're being shaped by spirits, and this material world is an expression of what shape those spirits are influencing us through. And it really makes me think like, wow, what spirit is trying to influence people to just forget about all the spirits? Because that's pretty messed up, and that spirit needs to go.
That's Ahriman.
And in my opinion, you could call that spirit Ahriman. That's what I call that spirit. And it's almost like that spirit doesn't want any other spirits. He just wants himself. He's like, I don't like any other spirit. It's just him. And he wants to X everything out and turn it into just one spirit. And some people would say, oh, well, isn't that the one God? But no, it's different than that, because this spirit is a spirit of chaos and destruction. And it's very apparent through what has materialized, what that spirit has influenced all of us to do. Look at the material effect. This is simply the paint of what the painter's doing, man. And this picture I'm looking at of the humanity on Earth right now is rooted in chaos, greed, and destruction. And it wasn't always that way. But now it's just all industrialized, and the love and soul is taken out of so many things that should not even be touched. Like the fact that, like Nia brought up, the fact that art is starting to become robotized and being done by AIs and robots, that's just very sad.
Yeah, I think GnosticNun, you wanted to bring something up, maybe?
Oh, I did, but I lost my train of thought. I got a text from my boss about work stuff. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I don't remember what I was gonna say.
I can say something about the AI art. I don't think it will ever be like a substitute for the real art. The real art will keep its place, and we will see to it.
I think so.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, yes. And anybody knows that real art is much better than AI art, but the fact that it's even a thing and they're even trying to do it is just crazy to me. I was also going to, oh yes, this is what I was going to say. What Michael was talking about, the ancient Egypt mythology about Ahriman being the slithering snake that came out of the Total's mouth as spit, and it ran away. We know that snakes have been used a lot to describe energies, and usually it's more of a negative connotation.
Sometimes it's good though.
Sometimes it's good, but in the energy of Ahriman, what I see as a snake is I also see snakes as kind of like dinosaurs. And if you think about dinosaurs living on this earth, when dinosaurs were here, they kind of made Earth. I mean, and I can't speak for all dinosaurs. I'm sure there were some good dinosaurs, but most of the planet when dinosaurs ruled, it was kind of it lacked a lot of love, and it lacked love and good
Yeah.
energy, and it was more animalistic and harsh and a lot of death, and that's why dinosaurs didn't last here for super long. They were wiped out by higher forces. A lot of people can think that's a meteor
or
or
whatever.
that's just the
All we know is that it
material way.
happened.
So
Yeah.
what I'm getting at is since dinosaurs were wiped out and we see dinosaurs, they're pretty hyper materialistic, and that can be seen as an expression of Ahriman as well. And then you look into this modern society, what is the biggest thing that we use to fuel this materialistic society? And that's cars. And what are cars fueled by? Dead dinosaurs. So if you think about it in that way, it really aligns. Like
It
this
shows you.
society
Yeah.
is being fueled by what the earth tried to banish.
Yeah, it's like we did the most, we were influenced, or we did whatever it was. We decided to do the thing that the earth wanted us not to do the most, which was dig up the dinosaurs and use them to create a society. And now we're seeing all the effects of that. And like, you know, you think of the reptile mind, there's no love on the reptile consciousness. It's just the most basic form of consciousness, survival. That's all it is. And I feel like that reptile mindset is what is actually influencing humanity. And you see it all around us. You know, there's so much starving and things that are happening that are a part of that reptile mindset. Like you have people that are sitting on the beach and drinking, you know, coconuts and stuff, and then you have people in Africa, like our friend Sarjo, for example. He's in the Gambia, and he can barely afford a bag of rice. I just sent him $30 last night, so his family could eat. And then I look around in the society I live in personally, and there's people throwing away plates of food like it's nothing. And then over on the other side of the world, Sarjo and his family are starving and they can barely have rice. And it's very apparent that there's some type of animalistic reptilian mindset sort of influencing us in a way through the spirit.
Well, in a way, with regarding to like snake consciousness, speaking about it from like a psychological lens, a lot of it has to do with trauma and like the generational like trauma stuff that like Lynn also had like brought up.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of like what keeps one in like this like fight or flight state. But also think about just generally speaking regarding like society, how it is that it tends to be very well, it is very stressful. And the thing is that it comes down to like, I guess, this particular way how things have been built, and it's like it's kind of is the way how it is right now, but it is not the way how it has to be. But I think a lot of it is like, because the thing is like snake consciousness, it isn't inherently bad. It's like we have it because, well, I mean, obviously we need to like survive, and there's like it's linked to like like instincts, like, oh, I have to eat, or oh, I have to go like
Yeah.
to the bathroom, or oh, I have to like I don't know, like sleep, or like stretch my body, or like there's like, you know, it's also connected to the body. So in that sense, there's like something good about it. But it's when it like overpowers one, and when it just becomes that thing. Then it becomes that snake that you talked about. Then it becomes Ahriman. But it needs to be part of the whole. It is part of the whole. But it is when it is when it overpowers, or like when it becomes like
the only thing or something.
the only thing. Like
Yeah, and then it goes back to the balance thing. It's all about the balance, you know, the natural order, the balance.
Yeah, like we need to be materialistic somewhat to be on this earth. That material is not a bad thing. It's when you only seek the material and you believe that material is the only way and it's all that's real. And that is Ahriman. And that's what we're learning here, is to balance the spirit and the material, to bridge the two so we can coexist with this earth and our spiritual minds. Like, I see it as our mind is infinite, and anybody knows that. Even the most scientific person, you can think of anything with your mind. You can go anywhere in your mind just by closing your eyes. You can imagine the Eiffel Tower. And so that's the spirit, that's the spiritual and within you, your mind and your soul. But we also have these bodies, these material bodies that's magnificent, and we can put our spiritual concepts and ideas into material life. And that's really why humanity is here, to bridge the two, not to choose either or. It's to be both at the same time in perfect harmony.
When we live in a way in which, you know, we feel isolated, today it would be, you know, through a lot of technology and screens and stuff, it's going to trigger that fight or flight response and make it seem like, you know, we do have to fight other people for something, even though we don't. It's an illusion.
Exactly. It's like, you know what, it was crazy. I was watching online, and in Germany they actually teach in school about American propaganda. And one of the main things that they teach is that a lot of people in America are forced into consumerism through feeling alone and feeling like there's nobody else for them, and the only thing that can ever make them feel good is material and not other people. And like, it's literally taught in schools to this day in Germany and probably many other countries in Europe, how America has used propaganda to force people into the materialistic mindset, because humans don't naturally choose that. If humans naturally choose that, we wouldn't even exist today. And the reason I say that is because think of a mother and her child. If a mother was inherently materialistic, as soon as she had the child, she would just take it and go throw it off a cliff. Like, why would she raise that child if there was no such thing as love? The reason the child and the mother live together is because the mother loves the child and wants to raise it and create the child into a beautiful adult. But that right there pretty much shows that we are based out of love, because if we weren't, we wouldn't be here. I mean, it's just a simple fact. Just like kind of how the dinosaurs would like, let's say they would lay eggs, and then the eggs would hatch, and the mother was hungry, like the dinosaur would actually just eat the babies that would hatch. And that's why a lot of those species don't exist anymore, is because they aren't rooted in love. So inherently they just start to kill off their own species, and the earth is the balancer, right? The divine feminine earth is the balancer, and the earth, it wants to promote love. So if you're just eating the eggs that hatch because you're hungry, then your species is never going to get anywhere on earth. And that's, I think, why humans have got so far actually on this planet, is because we actually can harness so much love.
talking about caring for children. What I was going to say, I remember, is that another way that I've heard that idea of the false god, or, one of these ideas conceptualized, is of Moloch, who would basically, this idea of feeding on the potential in general and potential of children. And so it's like, basically our culture is geared towards that. It's like the corporations want to, like, they have understood kind of a lot about psychology for a long time, and it's in their interest to harness your attention and your will and towards their profit,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's like if you look at McDonald's, like when I was a kid, for example, McDonald's had the playhouses in every store, and it was all geared towards kids and marketing towards kids. And then the government actually, and this is the thing, in the West, in America, there is good parts of the government that do regulate things that need to be regulated. And the government realized, well, wait a minute, we shouldn't have McDonald's advertising towards kids. First of all, it's terrible food. And second of all, it's turning our kids into dopamine addicts. So they were like, all right, McDonald's, you can't put a playhouse in every McDonald's. Because if you do that, you're literally just advertising to kids. Kids, they still do it, but it's way less advertised towards kids. There's not like Ronald McDonald at every McDonald anymore. You could also look at that in the cereal industry. So like back in 90s and like early 2000s, every single cereal brand had these figures, and it was marketed straight towards kids, and they had like toys in the boxes and stuff. So kids would want to eat cereal. But then as time went on, the government started realizing that it's probably not a good idea to put a toy in every cereal box, because then your kids start to have their teeth rot out due to cheap sugar, and they start, getting a bunch of health problems. But also there's another side of that coin where the government does like that, and they do like health problems, because then the medical system makes more money. But I want to go back to what you were saying about the snake and how it's not inherently bad, which I agree, actually. So the snake is, if you look, it actually represents knowledge. And I will connect this to Rudolf Steiner also. He talks about Ahriman, and how Ahriman is the smartest being, the most wittiest being out of all the spirits, and he knows the most knowledge out of all the spirits. He actually knows more knowledge than the human creator himself. And pretty much what he's saying is like the snake is so cunning and intelligent and smart that he can almost trick anybody. But the thing is that knowledge isn't inherently bad. What makes it bad is when you have all that knowledge with no wisdom to use it. So that's what I would call modern day science. It's all it is a giant pool of knowledge with no wisdom whatsoever. The reason I say there's no wisdom behind it is because every time and time again, we make these scientific discoveries, and then we turn around and destroy the earth with them. And the earth is like, what the heck, man? I let you discover this, and you're just going to destroy me. And it's just empty knowledge. There's no wisdom behind it. And that's when the snake is bad. And it's almost like, some people say Lucifer, or they say free will. Let's just say Lucifer is the embodiment of the evil free will of humanity. So what I think Ahriman is in his essence, because the snake is knowledge, so the snake isn't actually Ahriman. I think the snake is Ahriman when he's possessed by Lucifer through humanity. So humanity takes that knowledge of the snake, and then they use their evil will to use that knowledge to control and destroy others, which in turn destroys the earth and messes the balance up. So that kind of connects it all in a way. The snake isn't inherently bad until the evil humans take the snake and the knowledge the snake represents which is science, and they use it to build these societies of control, build these societies of greed and evil. And in turn, the earth takes on all of that. And the feminine earth, in the end, has to take on all the evil, because that's where we exist. And the earth has to try to restore the balance, you know. But go ahead if you wanted to say something, Lynn. I didn't mean to talk for too long or anything.
I think I forgot what I was gonna say.
Yeah, that happens to me too.
I have something to say, and it is that, like, you know, but I think it is a bit like what Raine Fox posted in like Roundtable also about like knowledge between and wisdom, because there's wisdom, and wisdom is how to apply knowledge, how to apply technology
Yeah.
in a good way. That's and I think that's the snake of, like, you know, connected to wisdom, and there's like whole, and I guess like overall that we're coming to, like, I guess like that one needs to be like aware of like the whole more, and think like a lot of that with like what you were talking about, like with this feeling of aloneness. I think community in that sense like ties into that as well. So it's like, I guess, this sense of like wholeness that needs to be there so that things don't become like that.
Separate.
So it doesn't
Yeah,
become separate. So we understand that.
reinstated.
And I think like bringing it back to like feminine earth, that's like one of the things too, like that needs to be reintegrated in some
realizing that the earth is our mother. You know, whether you view it spiritually or scientifically, the earth is our mother. And there's no arguing that. You know, a scientist could know that, and a guru could know that. The earth is our mother. Without the earth, we wouldn't be here. The earth raised us.
How do you instill that kind of appreciation? Like we were saying, you know, it has to be closer to 100% of people. Like even one person who like wants power all for themselves, you know, throws things out of balance.
Yeah.
I think how to help people appreciate that when like it's inherent, but it's like it's lost as well.
I get what you're saying. It's like you can have 99 people out of 100 doing the right thing, but there's always going to be the outlier. And what I would say to that is so we make a decision to incarnate on Earth, and I view it sort of like a contract. We're in our spirit form, and whatever higher power we're negotiating with wants us to learn and grow through our experiences. So that goes back to wisdom. What even is wisdom, right? Everybody thinks they know what wisdom is, but wisdom is experience. So like, let's say you're a mechanic, but all you've done is you've read books about fixing engines, and you've read like hundreds of thousands of books, and your whole life all you did is read books. So you have a bunch of knowledge about fixing engines. So then we go to a mechanic who's spent 100, or no, let's say he spent 50 years of his life fixing engines with his hands. He didn't read about it, he did it. So that, I would say, the guy with 50 years of fixing engines with his hands has the wisdom. The reason he does is because he has the experience of fixing the engines. And then you take the dude who just read about it for 50 years. He has no experience, therefore no wisdom, because he has not actually experienced what he knows.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like what's happening with the whole science thing. We know all this stuff. We read, we think. We're taught to think, which is kind of hilarious to me, because you're not supposed to think about reality. You're supposed to experience reality. When you step back,
it needs to get more grounded.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, what are you gonna do when you want to go swimming in the pool? Are you gonna think about swimming in the pool, or are you going to jump in that pool and swim? You know, that's the difference. And humans right now are thinking too much. We're sitting here thinking, looking at screens, doing all these thinking ideas, blah, blah, blah. And you see where it's getting us. Pretty much nowhere, to be honest. And then you look back in our history when we would experience more than think. And you see that we would build massive pyramids and we would build these cultures that believe in higher powers above them. And when we go to America, where we're all just sitting here thinking, that's when it starts to become separated. Because when you think, it actually separates you. It makes you feel like your mind is separate from what you're thinking about.
Should ask if this is live because he really wants to listen.
Is this live, by the way?
Somebody that wants to listen.
We have someone who wants to watch or listen.
No, it's recorded and it will be edited with the pictures in, and it's probably gonna come out like sometime the coming week, probably.
Okay, yeah, because we have a friend who wants to join. Maybe I'll just send him the link. He's really cool.
You can like hop on. You can hop on. You can send him the link.
Discord again?
You have him added. It's
I forgot the name though.
I'll get it.
Yeah, I really appreciate talking with y'all. I think everyone in this chat that I've talked to so far is very advanced, and I really enjoy talking. Zbloing. ZA.
Really great that you could join. It's been a very great talk, very good roundtable kind of spirit too, like with everyone bringing a little bit, and then together we have more than the separate parts. So it's great.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I hope that everybody after this chat goes and does something to experience, right? Because we've been doing a lot of thinking, but like personally, what I'm gonna go do, I sent my friend I'm gonna go to the gym and then I'm gonna go meditate. That's how I ground myself a lot. Is I like to go back to my to my body, you know, like lift a weight or go and meditate somewhere, or go into nature or go work in the garden to sort of balance it out. Because definitely when we're talking like this is good. This is what humanity can do to actually form a plan to execute, like what we're doing right now, sitting and talking and contemplating how we can make the world better. If more people did this, we'd have a lot better plans. But you also have to balance it out, because, you know, if we just sat here talking all the time and thinking, then we would never get anything done. So it's also about that balance. Like after we get off the Discord, we go and do something to sort of take the polarity the other way and remain in the center.
Yeah, I think that's one thing like that I've been like trying to work on more, to like get that the other polarity going a bit more. I do like a lot of like qigong and to like, I guess it's really been helping to like keep me like centered. If I don't do that, then things don't. I don't know. It's not that great, but it's important to like keep working on that and to like start to like balance these things out.
Yeah, it's really easy to get lost in the thoughts. I feel like let's say like before I'm about to sleep, sometimes my mind will just spin so fast, and like I just tell myself I need to go to sleep. But then I try to go to sleep and it's like I'm thinking about this and that and what this person said, and I'm rerunning the whole day in my mind, and you don't need to do that. Like you don't need to rerun your day you had in your mind. That's not necessary. You already experienced everything in the day. There's really no point in going back and thinking about it. It's sort of wrong energy allocation, you know. And like last night I was doing that. I needed to go to sleep at 9, but I ended up falling asleep at 11 because I was just sort of rerunning the day in my head. And then I realized, I was like, why am I doing this? What am I gaining from this? I was like, I need to sleep. I don't need to think about what this person said. I don't need to think about how I felt in that moment. I already felt that. I already experienced that. Going over it twice is just a misallocation of energy, where it could just be allocated somewhere more productive, you know?
Yeah, we have to balance. It's too much like swords energy. You know, you have to balance the elements. I think people have to are all ground back into the elements. We need a water and water on the earth. And that's, you know, that's true in your own body as well, like the macrocosm. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna do some breath work after this.
Yeah, there you go. I'm probably gonna go smoke some ganja. That's
Cool.
how I ground. That really helps me ground with the earth, to be honest. You know, it's a yin substance. It is grown through the earth. It's a flower. Whenever I smoke ganja, I really feel very grounded and in my soul, in my root chakra. I also like walking barefoot is very, very like grounding as well. Like everybody's always wearing these shoes on their feet, and sometimes just take them off. Like, you know, don't take them off in the city where there's a bunch of like bad stuff on the floor. But if you're out in
Yeah, but even in the city, you can find a nice park and hug a tree or something. Find nature somewhere around you, and connect with that, and see how the little birds are there flying around, and
try to talk with. You know what? I try to
listen to the water and to the trees.
Yeah, you can see the aura on trees. Like literally, you can see if you develop the ability more and more, you can actually see an aura on trees. Like I've almost fully developed it. Like you have to get in the right mode of consciousness, but the trees have they have bands of light around them, and it's actually their spirit vibrating energy from their core. And eventually, like trees are the easiest to do it with, but you can actually do that with all beings, like birds, cats. You can see the vibration they're emitting, like with your eyes, like literally.
I really love trees. I love trees.
Yeah, me too. Trees are amazing. Hey, Yuli, what's up, dude?
He can't talk.
Oh, he can't talk.
He wants to listen.
We've been talking for a little bit.
I think we've been talking for more than 3 hours, or?
Yeah, I've had a really great time actually, and I really like talking about ways we can ground more and be with the earth more. That's really important. Makes me feel very whole when I do those things.
Yeah. Like
it's like I'm a part of this. You know, that's what it makes me feel like. I'm not. It's
like
in
doing
me.
Exercises or like dancing.
Exactly.
And
yoga. I do yoga a
yoga
lot.
too. Yeah, I love that. And stretching and doing anything with your hands.
Oh yeah, it's like I kind of like this. So some people feel like the world is outside of them, right? Like you hear a sound, or you taste something, or somebody like touches you. It makes you sometimes feel like it's outside of you, like that sound happened outside of you, right? Oh, it happened over there. The bird was over there on the tree squawking. But if you really analyze it deeper, it's actually everything that you experience is happening inside of you. It's all within you. So like that sound you heard, you actually heard it inside of you. You experienced it within your own body and soul. Like when you feel something, you feel it within you. You don't feel it without you. When you hear that bird squawking, you don't hear that sound without you. You actually hear it within your own being. And the more you analyze that, you're like, wow, like everything that's going on is inside of you. Or a waterfall, it's all in you. It's your own consciousness feeling and this hearing and tasting inside of yourself. and everybody is a part of the same experience. We're all just having different experiences within one.
Yeah, it's the different perspectives of the same experience in a way.
We all got a piece of the pie, but the pie's the same, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's y'all can talk, by the way. I'll take a break for a little bit. I might go to the gym soon here.
Yeah, I just wanted to say quickly, like, I don't know, like, about maybe wrapping the talk up in a bit for everyone. That's just what I wanted to say. You go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, maybe we can have you on another time again, Mikael and Nehemia.
Yeah,
too,
dude.
and yeah. So maybe this is enough for this time, and next time we can talk more, if that's okay.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
getting
of course.
like late, and we want to have a walk and connect with nature next.
Yeah, before the sun sets, right?
Yeah.
Or did it already set?
Oh, it did long ago, but
yeah.
we're still gonna get out there.
We're practicing our best to rise with the sun and set with the sun. We don't always do it like perfectly, but I'm trying my best, and so is my sister. You know, because the sunrise and the sunset is an event that you can only experience for like a few minutes out of the whole day. So if you can rise with the sun and set with the sun, that's something special for sure. So
yeah, but we don't want to go to bed like at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, so that's why
it sets pretty early there.
We're in Finland here in Northern Europe, so we don't have as long days right now, but in the summer again, we have longer days, so we can't really go with that. But you there closer to the equator, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are really close to the Arctic Circle, right? Pretty close.
Oh, pretty close.
Yeah, definitely. Do you guys get a lot of snow there? Like, how much does it snow throughout the year?
Depends on the year. Sometimes the snow doesn't stay much, but this year I think we had like 40 centimeters at the most. There's still some, but it's getting warmer, at least for now. It's above freezing, so it's slowly melting, but there's still some snow.
Yeah, it's funny here in Florida, like if it goes below like 32, everyone freaks out. It's like that's like super cold over here. At like 25 degrees is like super cold here. And like for you guys it probably gets into the negatives, and it's so interesting to see how our beings accommodate to the climate where we're in so fast. Like in Oregon it would be really cold, like way colder than 25. Like sometimes it could get negative, like down, like really down low in the winter sometimes. And we thought that was cold, but then once we moved to Florida, it feels really cold even at like 40 degrees here. Like when it's 40 degrees outside, I want to put a jacket on. And like for someone else, that's probably nothing. That's probably like a nice sunny day for somebody. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it all depends what you're used to, I guess.
Yeah, and you get used to things so fast. I feel like it happens in like a month.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
nice.
yeah,
You all have a good day. Bye.
yeah, it was great talking. I love all you guys. Respect and blessings.
Have a good one, guys. I really enjoyed this podcast, and I'm excited to do more in the future.
Thanks for joining, everybody. It's good talk.
Yes, awesome. Sounds awesome. Would love
Yes,
to have you
sir.
all on. Okay.
All right.
Let's
go ground with the earth now.
Earth bless.
Yes. Feminine earth, blessed. Love, respect. Peace out.
Bye.